Yo, what is up, my gamers in Christ? How are we doing today? Today is the date of February 20th of 2026. We have quite a bit of news to cover today. Breaking news, the Supreme Court has ruled Donald Trump's tariffs are illegal. He cannot impose sweeping tariffs. Now, this has massive implications for our foreign policy, domestic policy. I mean, there is so much. The Supreme Court could very well decide that Donald Trump has to repay all of these companies that incurred the tariffs. Massive news coming out of the Supreme Court. I mean, this is what we've been fighting for. You know, these tariffs are completely they're anti-small business, anti-free trade, and are probably one of the biggest wealth transfers of this century, honestly. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let everybody know that I'm live. I think that's very important. I think that's a good message. We are live with tariffs. I think that's a good one. Anyways, we'll be getting started with the main show here in about 10 minutes. First off, I do need to share my link. Gotta self-promo. Self-promo is almost one of the most important things to do. Anyways, besides that, we also have, obviously, some Epstein news. Who would have guessed, right? Who would have guessed? Good old Dylan Burns. I need to start getting into contact with people like Dylan. I think Dylan's a really cool guy. I'd share a stogie with him. I'd share a little stogie with Dylan Burns. I'd burn a little green with Dylan Burns. Anyways. Let's share the link. And I think that's probably all the people I need to let know that I am live. I was watching Tom Foolery's show yesterday, and obviously IRI's show as well. And they were all watching the Mockler versus Hassan stuff. I don't think I'm going to cover that. I'll be honest, I could care less about Hassan Piker. Could care less. Not as a that's not a diss to them covering it at all or anything like that. I could care less, you know? Let's focus on MAGA. Let's focus on MAGA. Anyways, let me check out here. And then besides the tariffs, and Epstein news, I mean, there's really, that's kind of dominated the news cycle right now, as it should. Oh, we got a new Schmoyo video. We can watch Schmoyoho if you guys want. Damn, this is such a big story, though. The tariffs being ruled illegal. That is some insane news. And we all knew that this was coming, right? Like, we all knew. A president doesn't have full authority to just unilaterally impose trade barriers like that. So we knew this day was coming. It seems more and more, by the way, the Supreme Court is finding their spine on certain things, which is good. I prefer my Supreme Court to be spine in rather than spineless. I think it saves the flavor. Personally. What am I talking about? Anyways, let me boot up Morrowind. Let's get gaming a little bit in here so we can, do I have the head? Yes, I have the head. So, since I have the head, we can just leave this tomb. Easy money here, folks. Easy money. Excuse me as I take a sip of my white monster. As I fill in the stereotype of a streamer. Almost to a T. Alright, let me get my window capture set up and we can get going, guys. We can get going here in a moment. But I do like this song, so you already know we're going to be listening to it. I'm telling you, Front Mission 4's soundtrack had no reason to be this fire. It had no reason to be this good. But listen to these beats. Like, that's sick. This would be some great, like, anime music, honestly. Like a mecha anime. Hola! Hello, Bill! How are we doing today? It's a beautiful day out here in Kansas. It really is. The birds are chirping. The sun is sunning. Yesterday we got a huge cold wave, dude, that... I mean, I had to walk to my place and I could barely feel my fingers. Which is okay. Totally fine. Sorry, I just sneezed my brain out. I apologize, guys. Ah! Jesus. I have horrible allergies, so I'm not going to be around much today, but good luck. Oh yeah, oh, sorry. Good luck on your test, brother. You're going to kick ass, though, so don't worry about it. Oh, sorry. I'm very confident you're going to kick ass today. In 14 hours, that test it's going to be no more, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to go from a blank test to an A+ test. I feel bad for that piece of paper because it's over once Bill puts pen to paper, it's over. There's no surviving it. It's like a nuclear detonation. Anyways, we'll get started here in about 2 minutes. Real quick, I want to rest in Pelagade here. I've spent almost an entire month in the starting area. I think that's impressive. Come on. Who else is gonna spend 2 months in the starting area? I really don't want to give it again. It costs 75,000 rupees? Jeez, man. Well, I feel like you're not gonna need to take it again. You're gonna ace that shit, dude. It's over. It's just over for the test. As a matter of fact, they're gonna be paying you. They're gonna be paying you to take the test. Hey, what's up, Skippy? Spend a decade in Classic WoW with me? Hey, I'm down. That sounds like a fun time. The one, you know, I never... This is gonna sound like blasphemy, but I've never actually played WoW. I'm very true in the sense of being a loner, and multiplayer games just scared me for the longest time. But now we've dealt with our anxiety, and we're able to do multiplayer games pretty easily. Yeah, but for the longest time, like, I would never play multiplayer games because I was just... I wasn't necessarily even bad at, like, communication or anything like that. I was just a scared little kid. But then we got a laptop and discovered how to download Minecraft and play on servers. And that, I'd say that was one of the biggest social boosters of my life right there. I've had a couple social boosters recently actually. So, anyways, I think after this song we'll get started with the main stories today. Again, if you guys haven't heard, the Supreme Court has ruled Donald Trump's tariffs as illegal. And, I mean, this has huge implications for not just the administration, but for the country as a whole. Because I don't know if the ruling came with this, but they may have to pay back all the money they got from the tariffs. Now, wouldn't that could cause some bad things to happen. When are we gonna play Front Mission 4? That's a great question. Between now and the heat death of the universe. The $13 trillion? Yeah, so this is where it's gonna kind of be funny, right? Because he's claiming, Donald Trump is claiming, oh, we've got all this money from the tariffs. Well, now he's got to pay it back. So do we have to pay 13 trillion back, or do we only have to pay like the 200 billion we've accrued in tariffs? Like, which one is it? You know what I mean? Okay, who designed this soundtrack? This is my Happy Place song. Get out of here, rat. Man. I know how that rat feels. You know what? Yesterday, I won't lie. I felt exactly like this rat. Yesterday, I felt exactly like this guy. Hey, what the hell, man? I'm trying to give a fucking lesson. Hold on. Don't interrupt me. Anyways. I felt like this rat yesterday, you know? Just kind of chilling. And then an adventurer comes up and stabs me in the face. I know that feeling, man. If you guys haven't felt like this rat at least once in your life, I don't know if you're human. I kind of like the visual of just a rat. All right, we should get started. We should get started. Shouldn't be playing with dead things. Let me go to OBS here. And let's turn off the image. And get to our PBS NewsHour. I think we're going to start with PBS NewsHour because I think today will be actually a bit of a longer stream. I work a little later in the day, so I should be able to stream for a little longer. Now, isn't that beautiful how it just flowed right in to the PBS NewsHour? Anyways, if you guys aren't already subscribed to PBS NewsHour, go like and subscribe their channel. And let's begin.
Good evening.
Yes!
I'm Amna Nawaz.
And I'm Jeff Bennett. On the NewsHour tonight, the UK's former Prince Andrew is arrested as part of the widening global fallout related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
It puts a real spotlight on the process of the Epstein investigation, and it raises questions about what is happening in the UK compared to what's happening in the US.
Nations.
Yeah,
pledge
guys,
billions-
we really need to crack, like, the entire nation is watching us right now. Or not nation, the entire world is watching us right now. And how we treat the Epstein class. So I hope the nation realizes that, you know, people like Howard Lutnick should not be in the position they are in right now. After lying to the American people like that, fuck no.
of dollars to President Trump's so-called Board of Peace that promises to rebuild war-torn Gaza.
Yeah, zero arrests. Zero arrests in the USA. The main place where Jeffrey Epstein's predilections manifested. And we haven't arrested anybody. It's sick. It really is sick. And like I said, the entire world's watching. You know, this isn't the rest of the world are taking care of their Epstein class that took part in this. Even places like the Sultan dude, who's not actually a sultan, but has the name Sultan. Even he was kicked out of his company, and I don't know if they're going to be prosecuted necessarily, but he's definitely now got the stink of Epstein on him, and I wouldn't want to work with somebody who has the stink of Epstein on him.
South Korea's former president is
Oh, and look at this. That's why I print Andrew's out of jail already? Well, yeah, he probably paid the bond. But this is huge news for South Korea, and my deepest congratulations to the people of South Korea for putting this scumbag who tried to use the military to stay in power in jail. Send him in the slammer. You ain't getting out, buddy.
Life sentence for imposing martial law.
And
We have come too far to turn around.
a new album from singer-songwriter Lucinda Williams harkens back to an earlier era of protest songs.
Nice.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by and friends of the NewsHour, including
Oh, look
Robert
at these
S. Kaplan
Chads.
and Wendy J. Selden.
Look
through
at
the
these
Raymond James
Chads.
Charitable Endowment Fund.
I mean, the jawline on these people.
And with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions.
We love them. There's a lot of donations recently. Hell yeah.
This program was made possible
You guys should
by the
donate.
contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you.
This is a free show, but some shows are not. And I recommend you donate to them. Especially PBS NewsHour. They are such a valuable service. Not just for the stream, but just for society in general. Why does that look like what it looks like? Can we all agree, like, that looks like what it's... Like, I'm not the only one that sees that, right? That's the plug rock.
Welcome to the NewsHour. There were shockwaves across the UK today after the arrest of the former Prince Andrew on suspicion of misconduct in public office. His arrest reportedly linked to the latest release of the Epstein files.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he's now known, was taken into custody at the Royal Sandringham estate and later released. An arrest of this magnitude involving the sibling of a reigning monarch has no precedent in modern British history. We begin our coverage tonight with this report from correspondent Chris Shipp and our partners at ITV News.
At breakfast time, a number of unmarked police cars arrived unannounced, their task to arrest the younger brother of King Charles. Today is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's birthday. He has spent most of it in police custody, answering questions. By 10 a.m. this morning, Thames Valley Police confirmed they had made an arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office. At Royal Lodge in Windsor, where Andrew had been living until the start of this month, black vans were filmed entering the grounds earlier today.
Yeah, not anymore. Get out of
At
here.
midday, the first response from Buckingham Palace, and the statement was signed Charles R., meaning this was from the King himself. He spoke of how he had learned with the deepest concern of his brother's arrest.
You know what? I think that's dubs for the king here. Dubs for the king, honestly. I mean, that would be hard to sign off on a piece of paper saying you're going to arrest my brother. I mean, that would be hard, dude. No matter which way you look at it, so...
And insisted a full, fair and proper process should follow in terms of the investigation. The King repeated he was ready to fully cooperate with the police, and then in the starkest way possible he wrote, "Let me state clearly, the law must take its course."
That is badass. I'm sorry, that's badass. The law must take its course.
And this afternoon, just as he pledged he would,
Give me
the King
goosebumps a little bit.
continued with his public engagements.
Do you have any reaction to the arrest of your brother, sir?
Your Majesty, how are you feeling after your brother's arrest?
Today's diary did not change, but the
Okay, that's
questions
not...
on his
Come on, that's a horrible... Hey, how do you feel about arresting your brother? Come on, you could have asked that a little bit better.
arrival did.
Have you spoken to your brother, Your Majesty?
He had all his senior staff with him. He knows, just as they know, what a precarious moment this is. As for another of Queen Elizabeth's children, Princess Anne, her diary today included a visit to a prison. She didn't cancel it.
What's your reaction to your brother's arrest, Your Royal Highness?
So why did police launch a criminal investigation? It followed an assessment of the most recently released Epstein files made public by the US Department of Justice. Those files appeared to show emails from the then Prince Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein at around the time they were photographed in Central Park in New York.
Andrew and Kevin Spacey
Police
were
are
buddies, introduced by the Clintons. Okay. When Trump is gone, America is going to fall. No, it's not. It's going to continue chugging along as we've always done, because this democracy and union is stronger than one person. Because the Democrats don't have any interest, and the people either. And this is coming from an American. Well, now that you say this is coming from an American, I kind of have some questions to your citizenship. But with that being said, the Democrats have nothing but Americans' interests at heart. We were the ones trying to lower health care. We were the ones trying to bring affordability down. Have you seen the video about getting videos from the Epstein files? No, I haven't. If you send that in the stream suggestions in Discord, I'll take a look at it. Like I said, today should be a bit of a longer episode, probably about 5 hours, so. But yeah, this is some crazy business going on.
Investigating if confidential papers about business opportunities were shared by the then prince, and if that amounts to misconduct.
No way. Is that, you know what? I actually did hear something about that. That's embarrassing. If that's the case, if you just have to they didn't delete any of the metadata? They just, what? That's insane. Like, even I would think to do something like that. I'm not technically savvy. But even I would think, you know what? Like, don't you look at the file size? You know what I mean? It's like, this PDF is only supposed to be a couple megabytes, but for some reason it's a whole gigabyte. Oh well.
Andrew was a trade ambassador on behalf of the British government, a role which would have given him
oh shit, I didn't see you
sensitive
message me. My bad, Sean.
Confidential documents. The arrest is not connected to claims made by Andrew's accuser. The
shit is crazy. Oh yeah, here I'll copy the link and bring it up on the viewing box here. We got old Asman.
Was this done on purpose?
Let me know if you think they did this on purpose. So someone recently found out that if you go to the Epstein library on DOJ's website, and now instead of searching for something specific, you search for no images produced and hit search. It's going to show you thousands of PDF documents, and when you open them, it's just going to have this blank page that says no images produced. But if you go to the URL up top and remove the PDF part and then type in MP4 and hit enter, you'll find videos that I guess were labeled with the wrong file extension. For instance, here's an hour-long one of a jail cell.
Bro, there's no way. How did they fuck up this bad? How did they... Dude, they could have talked to Congress if the time span was too short. They could have just talked to Congress.
With a whiteboard placed in front of it.
I'm gonna just click on one on page 340, okay? So, wait, what the fuck? It just automatically downloaded a file. Was this done on purpose?
Let me know if you think they did this on purpose.
Oh, that's the thing. I got some videos and some of them are just that are censored, but some are scary even with the censoring. Wow. I mean, I'd be careful with what the corn is there. So all victims are blacked out or nudity. That's interesting. We might, next time we go through decoding the files, I think I'm gonna remember that. Must see, Brazilian torpedo. Interesting. Anyways, we got more octopus. We got more octopus cam. I had my VPN on. Oh, be careful. Yeah, gotta keep that. I stay strapped with a VPN. You know what I'm saying? Trump saved America? See, this is why I think you guys hate America, dude. Because you guys think it was in total decay and destruction when Trump took office, when, as a matter of fact, we were doing perfectly fine. Biden had brought down the inflation from 9 to 3. He couldn't help that Russia invaded their partner. Some are just random clips of people not knowing how to use a phone camera. Interesting. Well, this is, I mean, what more can you say but just an embarrassment for the DOJ.
Late Virginia Giuffre. Nor was it the result of new claims a woman was trafficked to Andrew for sex in 2010. Police are still assessing those. The Prime Minister, speaking before today's arrest, said, once again, whatever information Andrew has...
We were doing just fine with a dead, on his feet president? What are you talking about? Biden kicked cancer's ass. Trump couldn't kick cancer's ass. If Trump got cancer, his ass would be dead. And Trump used the auto pen. No, that's actually not true. Trump did not win with 81% of the popular vote. Actually, more people voted for Kamala or a third party other than Donald Trump. But even with that, there are some young girls in those videos that have their faces blacked out. Yay, Skippy, that's right. At least the Dow is up, ladies and gentlemen. At the very least, hey, we may have pedophiles in the government. They may be making all our decisions, but at the very least, the Dow is over 50,000. Low IQ homonym. Bro just went to his first English class and learned what a homonym is.
Should be shared.
Whether it's Andrew or anybody else, anybody who's got relevant information should come forward to whatever the relevant body is. In this particular case, we're talking about Epstein, but there are plenty of other cases. It is anybody who's got information relating to any aspect of violence against women and girls.
This is what MAGA is. Like, this is how I see MAGA when I'm in the Discord. Or not even in the Discord, but it's like I'm just enjoying my time, adventuring, talking about politics, and then, boing, they spit their venom at me. Unfortunately. Doesn't matter how many ridiculous channels there are, like just like yours. Trump doesn't care. He's doing his work for the country. How do you like them apples? I think they're fine. I'm not a fan of green apples, but yeah, they're fine. And Trump should care about what the American population thinks. Isn't that the president's job? Have you seen the Poly Market, Brett? Jesus returning before GTA 6 comes out. Funniest shit ever. Do I love Trump? No, I think Trump is hurting America. Honestly, GTA 6, from what I've heard, is in development hell right now, so that may be the case.
View a duty to come forward, whoever they are.
And after the arrest, this response from the Foreign Secretary speaking to ITV News in New York.
There's a police investigation underway, and it is immensely.
By the way, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and gets me boosted out there.
The King was not told of his brother's arrest before it happened. This is a seismic moment for monarchy. King Charles said today his family will continue in our duty and service to you all.
Our thanks to Chris Shipp of ITV News for that report. President Trump, meanwhile, is himself facing ongoing questions about the Epstein files. He spoke about Andrew's arrest on his way to Georgia this afternoon.
I think it's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's a very, very sad. To me, it's a very sad thing.
For more on the fallout in the United Kingdom, I spoke earlier today with BBC Studios special correspondent Caddy Kay.
That's such a weird... It's a horrible thing. No, this is a great thing. We are holding our leaders accountable. This is amazing.
Caddy Kay, welcome back to the News Hour. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Amna.
So this moment, the arrest of the brother of a monarch, just how extraordinary.
Diaper Donald is harming the world. Yes, he is. He is very much hurting our image as Americans and our place in the world stage, but he's also bringing untold harm to our domestic sector as he drives further and further division between the two parties. Unemployment down from 4.4, gas prices down, precious metals up, Dow up, crime at a historical low, immigration down. So, to talk about the unemployment numbers a little bit, you realize that the unemployment, those are Trump's BLS. So, I don't know if I'm going to exactly trust that, especially because I see a lot more people coming in asking for a job than I used to. Gas prices down. So the BLS report came out and it's looked like gas was down by about 8%. That's what Trump's own team is touting. 8% isn't going to affect Americans' affordability. It's just not. Now, if he was able, and it has nothing to do with Trump to begin with, but even if, if gas price, if they really wanted to make a dent, 20%, 30% might do something, but a measly 8% is not going to shift the needle. Precious metals up, Dow up. Well, I mean, have you guys seen the recent stock reports? They are not looking very good right now. Crime was already at a historical low, and Biden had solved immigration by shutting down the border by the time he left office. Anyways,
Look,
I think that
we've
was
known
all
for
your
a
points
while
that I
Andrew
addressed.
had this shadow over him. He'd lost his titles. He'd been alienated by the royal family. He wasn't showing up to Christmas events and holiday events. He didn't appear in any of the family photographs anymore. So we knew that there was this cloud over Andrew. And yet I think despite that, I can't tell you how stunned people were.
Oh my God, 1 year, my man. Give it time. Were you this quiet during Biden's first term? He's done way more than Biden did in his first term. Excuse me. Biden had to bring us back from the brink of COVID that good old DJT put us in the first place.
In the UK, I've been
And he still did it. Presidential historians rate him 14 out of all the presidents, so...
UK all day saying this is front page news. Is it front page news in the United States? Which clearly it is. And it's because it is unprecedented. You have to go back to 16.
He didn't lie about his unemployment numbers, dude. What are you basing that on? Did you just make that up? I've never heard anybody say that Biden lied about his unemployment numbers. So I'd be interested to see where you got that data from. Because as far as I know, ladies and gentlemen, Biden didn't lose a single job while he was president.
47 for a monarch to be arrested like this in the United Kingdom. And I think there's now, of course, it begs a lot of questions about the royal family. It puts a real spotlight on
Yeah, if only Biden didn't have to fix everything Trump fucked up in his first term. Look it up. He fabricated it twice during president. Was it during like a speech or something? Because if that's what we're gonna do, then I have a whole list of things Trump has said that he lied about. Okay, are you talking about the BLS? Are you talking about revisions? Yes. There are revisions after the initial numbers are released. If you're talking about the BLS revisions, then yes. They may have changed from when Biden said them to when the revisions happened.
Of the Epstein.
Andrew got arrested and had his property searched? Oh, yeah. $800,000 revised.
Investigation, and it raises questions.
Yeah, that's how that works. That's not surprising at all, to be quite honest. Have you seen the revisions Trump has made?
About what is happening in the UK.
And again, this is not, you know, Trump is a lot closer to the BLS than Biden was, but these aren't necessarily decisions being made by Trump and Biden.
Compared to what's happening in the US, but yes, everybody's stunned.
And the reaction that we saw from King Charles himself, right? Basically stepping in and saying the law has to take its course now on the investigation. Was that a surprise?
So what's unusual about that, and it's something that may not have been picked up here, is that he signed it himself. That statement is signed by Charles R. Normally statements like that, Amna, come from Buckingham Palace or the palace.
That's bad. Don't lie. That is kind of, I mean, I'd be very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. That's honorable, you know? That's honorable, in my opinion.
For the monarch to put their own name after a statement. And I think it was a sign that the king was trying to show the British public that he is fully supportive of this investigation, wherever it may lead. Now, he's already said that in public, but the fact that he came out and he made that statement about how the law has to take its course, I think shows how desperate the royal family is to say, this is Andrew's issue. This is not about the rest of the British royal family, because this could be a huge body blow to them. So they have to try to make this, if they can, they have to try to show the British public they're supporting the investigation. This is about one individual, one bad apple. It's not about the king, and it's not about William and Catherine.
And I want to underscore here something. This is not related.
Charles looks like a vampire for good reason. He's actually the 13th grandson of Vlad the Impaler. Jeez. Actually, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Made by the late Virginia Giuffre.
Oh, and he has two properties in Transylvania? Oh, geez, this guy's a full-blown vampire.
Who said she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to Britain and had sex with Andrew when she was a teenager years ago. Andrew has consistently denied any wrongdoing there, and Giuffre died by suicide last year. But her family today did praise the arrest.
Rest in
peace. They said today our broken hearts have been lifted at the news. No one is above the law, not even royalty. Caddy, on those allegations, is that something that people in Britain want
Look
to
up his
see
properties in Transylvania?
investigated further?
Ever since Andrew, that disastrous interview with the BBC in which he failed to express any sympathy for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, that's been when he started to be shunned by Royal Society and shunned in public life. And I think there is a demand for more information about that. Now, the issue for the royal family is, which, as I said, is trying to insulate itself, is that if this goes to trial, there are going to be awkward questions asked to the royal family about the $15 million civil settlement that Andrew paid to Virginia Giuffre. Where did that money come from? Did it come from entirely Andrew? We don't know. It's all of those finances have been so far kind of clouded in secrecy. Well, did it come from the king?
I used to rage bait a Brit. You're more Romanian than you know it. Your royal family has some Romanian in there. Hey, I don't really get the whole king stuff and European bloodlines and shit. Hey, there's a reason we left that here in America. You know, we left that in Europe when we came to America. Too complicated. Oh, Charles. Okay. I guess his name. I guess it's not even Prince. Oh. Okay, that's a vampire Hamlet. Can we all agree that's a vampire Hamlet? Yep. Look at this. Yep, that's a vampire Hamlet. Well, congratulations. You know, diversity is one of the biggest strengths of humanity, and those afflicted by vampirism, I'm sure, have a lot of insight.
Did it come from only Andrew? Were there other sources of that money? I think that's the kind of information that the British public would like more answers to, and clearly the American Congress wants answers to as well.
Another thing we've been reporting on here is sort of the disparity of consequences. And
That's what I think Americans need to realize. You're not American. You're a mix of several different races from centuries of ancestry. Yeah. Like the idea of anybody can be an American, in my opinion.
accountability we've seen with the Jeffrey Epstein files being released in some form.
Who cares
Investigation
about the Epstein files? Well, I think a large amount of people do. You'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who doesn't.
and resignations at very high levels across Europe, not so much here in the U.S. Is that resonating in the U.K.?
What we've had in the US is more private sector resignations and stepping back from public light. So you have Bill Gates not attending an AI summit, speaking at an AI summit in India, for example. But then you don't get the investigations, you don't get all of the information. People just step down from something, they pull back from public life, they resign from a high profile business career, but it's not the same as it being investigated. And I think that's what the disparity is, that you have actual investigations. If Andrew goes to trial, it will be the Crown Prosecution Service will conduct this. The Crown Prosecution Service will bring this trial into fruition, and it will be the King versus Andrew Mountbatten. And I think that's what is the difference. Is
more lies from the Democrats.
That there is a perception in the UK that the law is being applied equally. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will be sitting in a cell during this time, waiting to find out what he's going to be charged with, and he will be treated like a normal member of the public. There are no favors being granted to him just because he is the brother of the king. And I think that is what people are noticing in the UK and pointing to in the US. Are people being protected? Are certain people not being investigated who should be investigated? And can we trust the reliability of the Justice Department to follow through with the rule of law in the way that the Crown Prosecution Service now seems to be doing, with the full blessing?
And unfortunately, I don't think you're going to see that. You know, as heartbreaking as it is, it feels like we're not going to see that. Anyways, one moment. I do have to go pick something up from the door here in a minute, so.
Of King Charles to be honest and frank and do its job in this case.
Do they have a right to a speedy trial in the UK? I actually don't know. Let me check that up. That's a right in America. But let's see. In Britain, do you have the right to a speedy trial? Let's see. Yes, in Britain, you have the right to a speedy trial under Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is incorporated into UK law via the Human Rights Act of 1998. Hell nah, you can't trust the DOJ. Yeah, unfortunately.
Caddy K, always great to speak to you, especially at this extraordinary moment in time. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
In the day's other headlines, President Donald Trump convened the inaugural meeting of his newly formed Board of Peace at the U.S. Institute of Peace headquarters today, a building that now bears his name. The focus was Gaza, where a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is still holding, though tensions remain high. The president announced billions of dollars in reconstruction pledges from the U.S. and other nations, outlining an ambitious plan to rebuild Gaza.
Does everybody like the music?
Today in Washington, President Trump's newly formed Board of Peace met for the first time.
Today, thanks to unrelenting diplomacy and the commitment of many of the great people in this room, the war in Gaza is over.
The president stood flanked by...
So, Board of Peace is kind of a joke. You know, I mean, like, he's just bored of it. That's the joke I made, is that Trump's bored of peace. Courts and government are only there to destroy people's lives? No, they're not. They're there to maintain civil order, my friend.
By representatives from more than 40 countries, with observers from a dozen more, gathered for what he called one of his most important and consequential missions.
What we're doing is...
Yeah, for real, T. Cruz literally sponsoring a geoslide. Yeah. It's pretty gross. And, yeah, that conflict, I'm sure I can meme hole myself on.
Very simple. Peace.
Yeah, right?
It's called the Board of Peace. An easy word to say, but a hard word to produce. Peace.
But the reality in Gaza is far from peaceful. Mourners gathered for a funeral for 9 Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes this past weekend, in what Israel's military called a response to ceasefire violations by Hamas.
Do you believe that there is a Board of Peace? Do you believe that Trump would come to...
It's not one politician that gives 2 shits about you? My friend, see, this is just, you just don't know how politics work, right? Have you ever called your representative, Johnny? Have you ever called your representative and let them know about something that is bothering you? That they have control over? You can do that. You know that, right? You can do that.
defend us? The one who is supplying Israel with weapons, money, with protection, and with an international umbrella.
In Washington, the president announced the U.S. would commit $10 billion toward establishing the board. It's unclear whether the president...
Politics is a scam. All right, bro. No, it's not. You just don't understand how politics work. A scam. It's so sad to see people say this about our democracy. You can say politics is a scam right now because politics don't affect you necessarily. You know, America's an amazing country, and no matter how much the president fucks shit up, things are going to be relatively okay for his stint. But my biggest fear is that somebody after Donald Trump comes along who's much smarter, because Donald Trump's a fucking idiot. Unfortunately. Dude, I've tried my hardest to give him as much he's just stupid, unfortunately. They tell you what you want to hear, then go into another room and speak out the other side of their mouth. It's all about getting votes. That's not true. I mean, what do you, I genuinely wonder, like, what do you guys think politics? Do you think politics is supposed to be just this boring me? Like, no, this is what politics have always been about, my friend. See, and it's this apathy that I fight against, because your vote matters, dude. Your vote fucking matters. And I don't know how I can get people to understand that.
As the authority,
especially in local elections. You know, I highly recommend grabbing your newspaper every day just as you're going to work and just reading what's going on in your community, because your vote matters a lot more in your local community. It still matters on the federal level, but in your local community, it is so dire and important. I didn't say I wasn't voting. Well, I mean, it sounds like you don't believe in it because the politicians will just lie to you, and then it's like, well, if they're just going to lie, why vote? That's what it sounds like to me. Maybe I'm misinterpreting. But most of these so-called representatives are corrupt. I disagree, man. I think that most politicians are there to represent their people. I do. Oh my God, here we go. Republic versus democracy. It's a distinction without a difference, my friend. One, you vote on the laws. One, you vote on people to vote on the laws. Not much of a shift there. Lesser of two evils. You sound young. I've been voting for 40 years. Game never changes. Well, that's the thing. I think that we can change the game. And I don't fool myself in thinking we're all going to get it done in one night. You know what I mean? I really do believe in incrementalism. And while at some point I think free, like for example, free healthcare, I think universal healthcare should be the goal, but I know we're not going to get that overnight. That's why I say we need a public option. So the public option can get funded and we can work out the kinks there. And then eventually we can get universal healthcare for all. Democracy means majority rule. No, my friend, that's not what democracy means. Sorry.
Spend those funds. Neither he nor the White House detailed where the money would come from or how it would.
Term limits should be the first goal. You know, I see where people come from with the term limits, right? And I understand it to a certain extent. I really do. I'm afraid that if we impose term limits on our representatives, that we don't get people like Bernie Sanders. You know what I mean? So, I mean, what state am I in? I'm in Kansas, my friend. I'm in Kansas, and I love my state.
Be used. Mr. Trump also said 9 countries pledged a combined $7 billion toward a Gaza relief package. Today's session lasted several
speaking on Kansas, I'm actually very impressed with some of the recent policies they've passed. Not just in terms of like small business and stuff, but they've done some very socially progressive things, and the court has ruled on many of those to be law. So we codified Roe v. Wade. Alaska here. Hey, shout out. I hope you're doing well up there in Alaska, man. But we've done a lot of very socially progressive policies, like I said, codified Roe v. Wade. We also made it to where you can change your gender on your license, and it's not going to be a big hoopla. So I've been very impressed with Kansas and what we're doing here.
Hours with dozens of speakers, including Israel's foreign affairs minister.
All previous plans for Gaza failed.
If there's a politician that cares about the people, why aren't they trying to find all those missing kids? Are you talking about the 300,000 administratively missing kids? Because those kids aren't actually missing. Oh, Jesus Christ, one of these guys. What does that mean? One of these guys. Uh-oh.
Failed because they never addressed the core issues: terror, hate, incitement, and indoctrination.
But those kids aren't actually missing. If you look it up, it's just ICE complaining about the fact that they can't keep tabs on the children. after they hand them off to a guardian or a protector.
And the head of the Palestinian Technocratic Committee, who outlined priorities for Gaza, starting with security.
Means a delusional liberal. What am I delusional about? I think I've been pretty based in logic and reasoning here.
Extremely difficult conditions. Our mandate is simple, President. Step by step to build the foundation for lasting peace.
Key U.S. allies, including the UK, France, and Canada, were not.
Yeah, I am. You know, I try to be fair with the IP conflict. I really do. I try to... Sorry, I got distracted there. You know, I try to be level when it comes to those. But, yeah, Israel has just been too wanton, dude. Way too wanton. They've just non-stop been... A man being able to change his sex is logical. Well, if there's the ability to do it, then yes. I'm a liberal, Philly. I won't lie. I very much identify with the liberal ideologies of our founders, and then also, you know, listening to speakers, you know, great leaders from our time. And it seems to be a through line of that liberal democracy is what has created such wealth in this world. Anti-Israel doesn't equal anti-Semitism. Well, I'm not necessarily, like, here's the thing that happened with Israel is their right-wing government, the Likud, has constantly gained power in the political system, but while they're gaining power, the people are slowly starting to realize, oh, this guy is just war hungry. So what happens is the Likud has to continue to coalition with further and further right political parties. And I mean, you see the result of what's happening, you know. I have some friends in Israel, and they are disgusted by what's happening. And there are protests, so.
In attendance. The president said he intends to name his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, as the special peace envoy.
I'll just say it right now. I'm a two-state solution, you know. I'm a Republican. I agree with you on some of y'all's standpoints, but I can't bend to the numerous gender argument. Well, I see it more as just respecting people. You know, if someone wants to be called something, go ahead. Our founders didn't cut their junk off. Well, our founders were also, some of them, very deeply disturbed, like Benjamin Franklin. You know. And that's not to diss on our founding fathers. I love them. I think they are chads of freedom and democracy.
Kushner, who has extensive and lucrative business ties in the Middle East.
Nobody protested when illegal immigrants R-worded and murdered 9 American women. Well, yeah, you did. What are you talking about? There were protests. What are you talking about? The Netanyahu and the IDF need to answer for what's happening to innocent. Yeah, I agree. I think Netanyahu should be arrested. I think it's ridiculous what has been happening.
Defended the board structure.
A lot of these people are volunteers. They're doing this not for any personal gain. People are not personally profiting from this.
The head of a newly announced international stabilization force said several countries, including Indonesia and Morocco, have pledged troops.
With these first steps, we will help bring the security that Gaza needs for a future of prosperity and enduring peace.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the board the only way forward.
There is no plan B for Gaza. Plan B is going back to war.
Yeah, they are all
No one
selling
here wants
weapons.
that.
I would agree with you on that, Joe guy, that it's obviously a proxy conflict between Iran and Israel. And it shouldn't be. And honestly, I think we missed a huge opportunity by not supporting the protesters in Iran. Think about it. We had the chance. I don't understand why a gay man can't be gay without the extra steps. Well, it's not that they're gay. It's that they feel like they're a woman. Or a man in case of the reversing the roles. You know. And I just respect it. Hey, it's not affecting me. Go ahead, dude. Be what you want. That's the answer this. Gaza borders Egypt, Jordan don't take any refugees. In fact, they call them a security risk. Yeah, I'm not going to say Egypt and Jordan have necessarily been faithful actors as well. Like, there's a lot of parties to blame for this. And it's messy, and it's complicated. One moment.
In Gaza, peace feels remote. Tents now cover swaths of devastated land.
Israel is required to purchase military equipment from the United States. Okay. Sure, their body, their choice. Be respectful. I mean, honestly, yeah, dude. That's kind of how I operate personally. You know, and it's a difficult decision. I have dated a few trans people in my life, and they talk all the time about how it was so difficult to finally just admit who they were. And that must be hard, you know?
Children play with makeshift lanterns made from empty soda cans. And long lines for food remain a daily reality.
Rain, wind, and cold in the tents. What are people supposed to do? How can the young people live in tents like these?
For now, conditions on the ground suggest the Board of Peace faces a formidable test. And hopes for peace are also being tested in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry says Israeli settlers shot and killed a Palestinian American in a village north of Jerusalem. Mourners held a funeral today for Nasrallah Abu Siam. A witness said settlers tried to attack a farmer and the 19-year-old was killed in the violence that followed. Israel's military says its soldiers had stepped in to disperse a riot. Human rights groups say Abu Siam was the first Palestinian killed by settlers this year. The UN estimates 240 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank in 2025. In Philadelphia, National Park Service workers began restoring a slavery exhibit today at the site of George Washington's former residence.
And I want to say thank you.
It's our honor.
And I want you to know I'm grateful.
It's our honor, man.
The city's mayor, Sherelle Parker, thanked workers during a visit there this morning. The exhibit tells the story of 9 enslaved
Sent you
people
something
who
on
lived
Discord
there.
or get a little chuckle? Hey, bet. Let me check it out. Oh, okay. I got you. Let's take a look.
So I just found out that tranny is a slur. I didn't know that. I'm just shortening the word. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm trying to save time. Like if there's an active shooter behind you, I'm not going to be like, oh, they, them. No, I'm going to be like, tranny, get down to the gun. And I've been to Thailand. Man, they're good. They trick you. You can tell no matter how close you get. I mean, you can tell. But you can tell when it's too late. You can tell when you eat their pussy and it tastes like dick.
I hate when that happens. I mean, be honest, he's advocating here for acceptance.
happened to me, so what? F you. They got me. It is what it is. I'm a straight man. I take it on the chin. I move on.
Okay, that one was good.
You fuck a tranny and you have to go through an existential fucking crisis. You gay.
All right, that was good. That was good. You're gay. That one was actually good. Do you want to meet up or should I just get your IP? Yeah, sure. Hell yeah, man. Get my IP going. That was good. I like that. You know, and he's preaching acceptance. Oh, was there more to it? My bad.
If I go to bed with a lady and I wake up, it's a dude, you know what I do? I give you a fist bump and I say touche. GG. You got me. That's how straight I am. I can fuck a dude and feel nothing, dude.
Damn right. I can fuck a dude and feel nothing. I like that, taking it on the chin part. That was good. But, you know, trans people are just like you and me. You know what I mean? We are a captured country, corruption at its worst. Yeah, unfortunately. I think we'll get out of it, but it's going to take a while.
Has become the focus of a legal battle between the Trump administration and the city. A federal judge ordered the displays be restored earlier this week while a lawsuit plays out. The Trump administration.
Now, I will say that the T word I'm not a big fan of, just because, you know, if some people are offended by it, but I get what he's preaching acceptance at the end of the day.
Argues that it has the power to decide what stories get told.
I think he's so straight that he can fuck a dude. Well, not that they're a dude, but you know what I'm saying. And be fine with it. Hell yeah. Well, if that didn't absolutely kill all of my, Hold on, I'm focusing on something outside of the stream. My bad, my bad. I'm not sure you'll ever finish Morrowind under this administration. Definitely not. Especially when I keep it froze on one screen
President
for
Trump's
about
White House
5
ballroom
minutes.
proposal has been approved by a panel whose members were handpicked
Trump is
by the
absolutely
president.
hurting America? Yes, I totally agree. You know, my number one complaint about Trump is his constant divisiveness. Jesus. You know, if he didn't paint every Democrat as a scumbag that wants to come out and eat your children, I might be a little nicer to old Trumpmeister, but he unfortunately does not believe in that. But I do have to, I need to get watching the shows, or else I'm gonna
himself. The U.S. Commission of Fine Arts
end
said the
up
massive
getting
ballroom
behind.
will increase hosting capacity for state dinners and other large events, which have traditionally been held in outdoor tents. Another body, the National Capital Planning Commission, will pick up the matter next month. In October, crews hastily demolished the entire East Wing to make way for the ballroom. A federal court case seeking to halt construction is still pending. Also today, workers installed a large banner featuring the president's face at the Justice Department in Washington, D.C.
That's
the DOJ
so
has a
gross.
tradition of independence, and its presence highlights Mr. Trump's growing influence over the department. Separately, the military says Air Force One is
Discord. I'll bring it up here in a few.
getting a new look. Red, white, blue, and gold is seen in this artist's rendering. Mr. Trump has been pushing to replace the lighter blue Kennedy-era color scheme since his first term. The nation's trade deficit posted a small decline last year, even as President Trump's tariffs upended the global flow of goods and services. The gap between what the U.S. sells overseas and what it buys narrowed to just over $901 billion. That's down slightly from the year before, but is still the third highest on record. And when it comes to physical goods, that is, taking out services, the deficit actually hit a record of around $1.2 trillion. That's despite President Trump's tariff.
Woohoo, Trump! I like Trump. Thank you, friend. That's North Korean bullshit right there. Oh yeah, for sure. North Korea is, they're active on the social media spaces. You know, they're actually more active in applications, so like job, and like coding opportunities and stuff. You have to be very careful because North Korea is very well known to put operatives in those positions and learn from those jobs and take their experience and use it for the DPRK.
It all comes as the U.S. Supreme Court is due to rule on the legality of those tariffs as soon as tomorrow.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, this is the big news. Those tariffs are illegal. So no more tariffs, thank God. You know, things may actually start to go down in prices now that these tariffs are gone. Ironically. You need to sound more country? Well, unfortunately, I'm only 50% country.
Human rights experts at the UN say the Rapid Support Forces in Sudan carried out a campaign of destruction last year that bears hallmarks of genocide.
Oh, guys, if you guys know what happened in Sudan recently, it's horrible. I mean, just imagine what's happening in Palestine, and now just imagine, I mean, it's even worse. I know that's hard to believe, but it's even worse.
The point of genocide now. Enough is enough.
Tariffs was sending grocery prices through the roof? Yeah, so I think we may see a decrease in our grocery prices, actually. It doesn't matter, as you Libbies will never be in the White House again. Why not? Are you telling me that the will of the people will be disregarded if they vote in a Democrat? Is that what you're saying?
An independent fact-finding mission found that the paramilitary group carried out mass killings and other atrocities in the city of El Fasher last October. The report cites sexual violence and public...
Yeah, guys, if you... like... This is the clearest case of, in my opinion, it's the clearest case of genocide within our lifetime. I mean, this is disgusting. You guys, yeah, I don't know if when I first started streaming, the Sudanese conflict was just starting to really heat up. And I remember reporting on a city known as El Fasher that was essentially being blockaded by the RSF to create a killing field inside the city, and that's exactly what they did. And it's reported that over 200,000 people were killed. There's video from satellites that show blood pooling to be visible to the satellites. I mean, it's really horrific stuff. And I think if we were in better times, we would have stopped this immediately, but we're not in better times. We are in hard times right now, so.
Public statements calling for the elimination of non-Arab communities there. At the UN Security Council today, diplomats called on nations to exert maximum
The
pressure
NK are
to
LARPing
prevent
as
any
Japanese or South Koreans on LinkedIn and Fiverr. Yeah. Yep, that is a huge issue. Foreign influence is a bit of an issue in this in our democracy right now. But we can address this by updating our laws.
further bloodshed.
This is not just a humanitarian crisis, it is a regional security crisis and a
Yeah.
migration crisis too. This affects all of us. And that is why we need action, and we need the United Nations to be a force.
With the MAGA cult, it's never had anything with policies, economic packages, and the best interests of America. They hate who they hate, period. It's a psyop? What? MAGA?
For countries to come together from across the world to demand peace.
Oh, are you talking about the DPRK stuff? Yeah. I definitely... Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a psyop, but it's definitely something that we need to address. I don't know what you would call that. But they're learning from our teacher, from our coders and stuff. The foreign influence, yeah. So, for example, I think a lot of things on the right are astroturfed. I do not think a lot of it is organic. You know what I mean? I think a lot of talking points by the right are astroturfed by other countries or by independent actors in the United States.
Violence has raged in Sudan since 2023 when tensions between its military and paramilitary leaders boiled over. The UN estimates that at least 40,000 people have died, but aid groups say the real figure is much higher.
Yeah.
On Wall Street today,
The aid groups are saying somewhere around like just an almost like impossible number. Who had a Turkish neighbor he would have beers with on the weekend and outsourcing work to India. Wild stuff. Yeah. Are you upset over world peace? What are you talking about? There's no world peace going on. I bet you're praying for war with Iran because you hate the orange guy. Well, I think the Iranian regime is absolutely disgusting. So I don't know how to feel about the stuff in Iran right now. Because on one hand, they are absolutely a horrible regime, but would getting rid of them just create more instability in the region? Did you miss the peace summit? Oh, you're talking about Trump's Board of Peace? Yes. No, I did not miss the peace summit. It's more like he's bored of peace, like he's fucking snoozing. He's bored of that shit. He wants war.
stocks ended lower as worries about a conflict with Iran weighed on the markets. The Dow Jones Industrial...
By the way, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and gets me boosted out there in the algorithm.
Average fell nearly 270 points. The Nasdaq slipped about 70 points on the day. The S&P 500 saw its first loss in 4 days. And at the Winter Olympics today, there was a dash of disappointment, but plenty of triumph for Team USA. If you want to avoid some spoilers, this is your warning. Skating
Spoilers
star
for the
Jordan Stoltz
Olympics?
came up short in his bid for a third gold medal of the game, settling for silver in the 1500
Yes,
meters.
with almost every world leader. Okay, was Putin there? Was Xi Jinping there? Like every time I join the stream? Hey, I appreciate that, T. Cruz. I really do. All right, let's talk about my orders.
Speed skate. But in women's figure skating, Alyssa Liu won the first gold medal for the U.S. in more than 2 decades. And Team USA women's hockey came up big when it counted, beating arch-rival Canada 2-1 in an overtime thriller. That helped bring the U.S. into second place in the overall medal count with 27 behind Norway. Today was also the Olympic debut for ski mountaineering, or Skimo for short. It involves athletes climbing up the mountain first before skiing down. Switzerland and Spain took home gold in the women's and men's events, respectively. Still to come on the NewsHour, President Trump tries to tamp down concerns about affordability. Republican Congressman Ryan McKenzie discusses the partial government shutdown and other divisions in Congress. And prediction market platforms see massive growth and mounting scrutiny.
Yeah, Polymarket is an interesting one. I don't know if you should be betting on everything. Gambling is going to be the next addiction that hits the US. The Dow has dropped again, so Bondi had to pick another direction talking point from the Trumpstein files. Oh, one moment, guys. All right. The Dow is over 50,000.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein studio at WETA in Washington, headquarters of PBS News.
In South Korea, a court sentenced former President Yoon Suk-yeol to life in prison after it found him guilty of
Let's go. This is hype for South Korea. This is fucking exciting for South Korea.
an insurrection. While it is a dark mark for the country, some argue it's a bright spot for its young democracy. Nick Schifrin details how a few short, tumultuous hours challenged South Korea.
Let's bet if it's going to rain in 2 hours, Kentucky on Polymarket. For real.
As if it were a play-by-play, a judge making the final call on the sentencing of former President Yoon Suk-yeol. And after Yoon's fate was sealed, his critics celebrated.
I was watching the martial law, which is something I'd only seen in history books, unfold in real time. I hoped for a harsher punishment so that history wouldn't repeat itself.
His supporters were left shocked.
Watching what appears to be a collapse of rule of law today, I am compelled to question whether we should proceed with an appeal or continue to participate in these criminal proceedings at all.
It was December 2024 when President Yoon declared martial law. His middle-of-the-night announcement sent members of the military to Parliament. Protesters protected the building and their democracy. Inside, the only thing that stopped soldiers from Parliament floor, furniture deployed by opposition staffers. That bought time until a unanimous vote lifted martial law. From start to finish, it was only 6 hours, but it was and has been a test of South Korean democracy.
Yeah, guys, this is what
stories, the resilience and the system.
You know, we should have put Trump in prison. That's what happens in functioning democracies if you try to overrule the election. Unfortunately, we're not quite functioning right now. If only America was as effective as Japan, right? If only.
Sustainability of South Korean democracy in the face of unprecedented challenges.
Frank Januzzi is the president of the Mansfield Foundation, which works on U.S. relations with Asia. He calls Yoon's the most momentous domestic trial in more than 30 years, in a country that has a history of presidents who've been impeached, jailed, or overthrown.
Over the last 14 months, South Korea has emerged from this process with due process sustained, rule of law sustained.
I forget why martial law was put into effect there. I believe it was threats from the DPRK. I could be wrong about that, but the casus belli was very loose to begin with. I remember at the time watching it and like, oh, this guy is obviously trying to take over.
Democracy itself was in the docket in this trial. And the South Korean people affirmed the value of that democracy, the resilience of that democracy, without personalizing the crime.
The outcome from Yoon could have been much worse. The prosecution asked for the death penalty. And it wasn't only Yoon. 5 other former officials were also convicted, including the former defense minister, who will spend the next 30 years in prison.
Trump did the same thing, in my opinion. He didn't almost, he did. You know, in my opinion, of course, in my opinion, but yeah, yeah, Jan 6th is that for me, is what happened here.
Current President Lee Jae-myung, Yoon's longtime rival, has refrained from politicizing the trial, says Januzzi.
This allowed him to cool down the temperature a bit and also allowed him to focus really on where he needed to focus, which was his foreign policy priorities, sustaining an outreach to Japan and reassuring the United States that South Korea would be a loyal, faithful ally.
Over the past year, South Korea has faced pressure over trade and promised to increase defense spending. It's been a balancing act for a democracy that has now sent a former president to prison for life. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin.
We should all be super proud of what South Korea has done.
President Trump is in Rome, Georgia today, talking about affordability and the economy, a theme he's expected to spotlight again in next week's State of the Union address. Our White House correspondent Liz Landers has more on this and joins us now. So Liz, as you've been reporting, the president has been frustrated. He's not getting enough credit when it comes to the economy. That's why he went to Georgia to talk about this. What did he say?
Well, today he was focused on affordability, the economy. This was also a political visit for him. This is a congressional district that's going to have a special election soon, so kind of several birds with one stone here. He was touting the stock market. He was touting some signature legislation that has also passed recently.
The great, big, beautiful bill is basically a tax cut bill. And, you know, when you hear the fake Democrats talking about it, like,
See, listen to this.
Bill, you know, they try and mock
He's
it.
always got to fucking shit
We
on
put
someone.
4 years worth of goodies into that.
Yeah, I thought affordability was a Democrat lie. Democrats supported. Oh my God. Yeah, and did you know that if you go far enough back in the history that we all used to worship the sun god?
That bill, and everybody said it couldn't be done.
The president visited a restaurant there, and then he gave that speech at a steel mill in Georgia. This was his first domestic trip on this issue, talking about affordability in the economy, since he went to Iowa a few weeks ago. But Amna, there was some mixed messaging here today. He goes off on tangents when he gives these speeches sometimes, was talking about the operation in Venezuela a few weeks ago at the beginning of the year, also talking about
Over a million times in the files, farmers going bankrupt, 150K jobs lost in January, unemployment higher than it's been in a decade, groceries are through the roof, and MAGA is still drinking that Kool-Aid. It must be a good flavor. It must be like the tropic, you know, like black cherry or something, because they seem to love drinking that Kool-Aid.
grievances on issues where he doesn't think he's getting
Actually, it wasn't Kool-Aid that killed the people at Jonestown. It was Flavor Aid.
Well, your reporting has also shown that his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, held a sort of unusual closed-door strategy session this week to talk about messaging for the midterms. What do we know about that?
Yeah, a source who participated in the meeting talked to me about this and said that this was an effort to get Republicans both inside the administration
All
and
lies.
outside allies on
Lies.
the message and talking about
I'm
the same
not lying
priorities.
to you, man.
This person said that affordability is the
I have to
number
quit
one
Morrowind
issue
'cause my-
right now for the White House going into the midterm election. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, talked about this. So did James Blair,
'Cause
who
my,
is the deputy chief
my
of staff, and then Pulso
mouse
Tony
just disappeared.
Fabrizio, who's worked with the president
It's
for
very
a while.
strange.
They were among the speakers. And this Republican said that, look, these issues like affordability on
There we go.
energy prices, on housing,
Sorry
on
about that,
healthcare,
guys.
fuel prices, and groceries, those are sort of the main tenets that
At some
they're
point I'm
focused
gonna
on.
call in, but you seem to only stream when I'm at work. But to be fair, I'm always working. Hey, no issue. If you want to call in, that's totally fine, brother. But I understand why. I was at work yesterday, and I actually really wanted to get into a debate that I was watching, but But I was at work, so I completely understand. Sorry, I gotta boot up Morrowind real quick again. Unfortunately, it's just not working. Sometimes it just does that.
Right now, and this person said the president has now been in office for more.
Choose to believe my lies. You choose to believe your lies. No, I'm spitting nothing but straight facts. I don't know how anyone can stand talking about politics right now. We've been screwed since 2016. Nah, our democracy is way stronger than anything Trump can throw at it.
More than a year, and
He's
there are
gonna
only
try,
so many things
but
that he, the president, can blame Biden, his predecessor, on at this point, and recognizing that they need to get out there and sell their affordability message to the American public right now. And so this was about that kind of coordination, and also, Amna, I'd add, getting cabinet members out on not the campaign trail per se, but across the country touting these messages.
At the same time, we know Democrats have also sort of landed on
Yeah,
affordability
Beatrice
as
has
their
this
primary
issue.
messages going into the midterms. What do we know about how effective that'll be?
It probably will be effective.
By the way, if you guys
based
are
on
enjoying the
polling.
stream,
Look,
don't
the
forget
White
to
House
like
actually
and
doesn't have
subscribe. It
that
really helps out the
economic
channel and gets
numbers
me
to be
boosted
touting.
out
The jobs
there.
report that came out for January was better than anticipated. Gas prices are dropping in some parts of the country. In Georgia, I was looking at the average price of gas there is $2.71 per AAA, which is lower
If I lie, you
than it
must
has
lie
been in
too.
the last year. The average Georgia
I guess you need optimism to keep going. I'm fresh out. Well, I recommend watching the stream because I am full of optimism. I think after this headache that's known as Donald Trump, we're going to spring forth into a new and even brighter form of democracy. So I've got hope.
resident is also going to save more than $3,000 on their taxes this
And
year.
they can take a
from
lot of things away from you, but one thing they cannot, they will never be able to take away from you is your hope and will. And I think that's so important.
that signature tax bill that passed. That's according to the conservative-leaning Tax Foundation. But when you look at the poll numbers of what Americans are actually feeling, Fox News had a poll, found that 59% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's job handling on the economy. 68% say that he's not.
My
spending
side
enough
runs the
time on
world.
the
Is that true? Because right-wing parties everywhere have been ousted because of Donald Trump. So does your side really run the world?
economy. So going back to that.
We would have been able to run the world. You see, we would have been able to run the world, but poor Donnie Boy doesn't like the idea of America being number one. So he's removing us from being at our top place.
Sort of dual messaging that the White House is dealing with between foreign policy and also domestic issues.
Meanwhile, we should underscore it's February.
Yes.
We're talking about strategy sessions for messaging around the midterms in November at the White House. Why? Why is it such a concern for them?
Because the margins are so slim in Congress. Right now, the Republicans only have a 4-seat majority in the House. And historically, a president loses the midterm elections.
I hope you guys know that we're taking the House and Senate back. Sorry, Bubs. We're taking them all back these midterms. I hope you're ready.
President Trump experienced that in 2018. Republicans lost 40 House seats in that election, and that also gave Democrats the power to then set into motion some of those impeachment trials, which we know President Trump is already thinking about. He has said in a few speeches recently to Republicans that you've got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's going to be, they're going to find a reason to impeach me. So we know
I will always vote Republican. Okay. It's pedophiles versus Americans. Amen, dude. And we still have some people defending the pedophiles. I disagree. I don't think both are compromised. You look at the files. Who are the Democrats in there? They're all ghosts of the Democratic past. It's no one relevant.
sort of a concern of President Trump's right now. And also, if Democrats win control, they can do a number of other things. They could stall other kinds of legislative priorities for the White House and also investigate the Trump administration.
It's our White House correspondent, Liz Landers. Liz, thank you. Of course.
We love Liz. Liz is the best. Food prices in the U.S. are expected to rise by 3% in 2026. I thought my grocery prices were supposed to come tumbling
The partial
down.
government shutdown that has stalled funding for the Department of Homeland Security has entered day 6 with no signs of compromise between Congress and the White House. The shutdown started last week after congressional Democrats pushed for reforms of the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts. Our Lisa Desjardins has more on the funding fight.
Both the House and the Senate are out of town this week, but what they've heard from constituents at home will matter when they return on Monday. One key swing vote belongs to freshman Republican Ryan McKenzie. He represents Pennsylvania's 7th district, bordering New Jersey. It includes the Lehigh Valley and the city of Allentown, and he joins me now. Congressman,
Well, I hope you're excited to get replaced.
ICE is a major issue in your district. I know that at least one county has said they will not cooperate with ICE. There's a detention center coming in the county next door outside of your district. But I want to start with you. How do you see this immigration crackdown? Do you support it?
Well, after 4 years of an open border during the Biden administration, we were seeing and feeling the impacts of that illegal immigration flow.
All the way up in Pennsylvania.
If you go on DHS's website, you can see some of the violent offenders that have been arrested in our cities. Very heinous individuals that should have been taken off the street. And when we do have those people that are detained, we want ICE to be able to appropriately pick them up. As you mentioned, Northampton County, unfortunately, has a sanctuary policy basically in place that does not allow them to release those individuals directly into ICE custody. That leaves our community vulnerable and less safe than it should be. And so I really push back on those policies strongly. And I think we do need to make sure that we are appropriately taking people off the street who shouldn't be here and are committing these violent crimes. At the same time, we are open, and I'm certainly open to reforms and the way that we can actually improve these operations at the federal government level. It's something that I think in every case, whenever you see instances like we saw in Minneapolis, which are very unfortunate, tragic situations involving American citizens, we do want to look at what are the possible reforms, the way that we can improve the way that everything is being conducted in law enforcement. And so I've been open to those discussions and a part of them as a member of the Homeland Security Committee recently, where I directly asked Director Lyons about what we should be doing.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not watching any of those,
involving
eh?
US citizens.
It's a good thing, Richard S. Brother, do you realize, like, I swear the Russian bots are getting worse. Ukraine must really be holding them to the line because the Russian bots are getting worse and worse. I had one recently call, like, copy and paste their line in the wrong chat. What's your sources, Dick? Oh, Dick is definitely a Russian disinfo agent. I just hope Vladimir makes sure to not be too mean to him.
Okay, let's talk about those key reforms because that's under discussion right now. That's why DHS essentially has no funding, what Democrats are hoping for. So they're saying they want a list of 10, but I want to ask you about some of the key ones. Tell me if you support or oppose any of these ideas. Banning face masks, requiring identification for ICE officers, and whether there should be some kind of increased warrant requirement for entering homes. Where are you on those ideas?
Well, I think we do also have to balance the way that the Democrats.
By the way,
are
if you guys are
approaching
enjoying the
this. They've been
stream,
very
please
public
remember
about
to
it. People
like
like
and
Senator Chris
subscribe.
Murphy,
It really helps
have
out the
said that they
channel and
wanna
gets me
handcuff
boosted out
ICE,
there.
And they actually want to limit the way that they can conduct operations. That is not something that we want to do. We want to make sure that they can fully enforce federal law, taking those violent criminals off the streets. Now, at the same time, when you're talking about ways that we can identify our agents appropriately, there should be identification on these individuals. Maybe it's not a name, maybe it's a badge number, but some way that if an officer is involved in an instance, an officer-related shooting or something else, that they could be identified identified if they do have a mask on. And so the controversy around masks, I think, is one that we do want these individuals to be able to show their face. At the same time, this is not a choice that they made lightly. They didn't do it because they wanted to cover their faces, but it's because they really needed to. I mean, we've seen instances where these individuals have been doxxed, their families have been harassed. So if you're going to take a masking element away from these individuals, which I would be open to having a discussion on that front, we should also make sure that we have proper enforcement around the harassment and doxing of these federal law enforcement agents. So there is an appropriate balance that I think could be struck there. And the Senate and the White House are really taking the lead on these negotiations. And so we would like to see some reforms, a reasonable reform package that can get bipartisan support coming back to us in the House.
At the same time, the top issue, I don't have to tell you, for Americans remains the economy, and that includes prices. I looked at the largest grocery store in your
Yeah,
district.
MAGA hated mask 4 to 6 years
Which I
ago.
think is the
Ironic,
Giant store in Allentown, and check their prices. A Honeycrisp apple, now giving you that's a more luxurious apple, I suppose. Even on sale, that's 12% higher the cost today than it was a year ago, national average. Chicken breast, I'm a mom, I use chicken breast all the time. That price is up 9% at your local grocery store from last year. President Trump promised that grocery prices would come down. How do you respond to those who
Humbling
look at you
down,
and
as
say
a matter of
Republicans have
fact.
failed?
Yeah, I think the economy is still a top issue for individuals right here.
So
in our
Trump
local
was hurting
community.
America and Biden wasn't? Yes. Yes.
And it's everything from food and fuel, housing and healthcare. All of those different
Very
elements
perceptive.
are things that we are working on. When it comes to grocery prices in particular, it is a challenge. There is no doubt to make sure that we provide the relief for individuals in those necessary staples that you're talking about. And so one of the things that we can provide relief on the flip side, not just in the cost category, but the income side, is to provide significant tax relief for every single American. By increasing the standard deduction, we're providing that. And then in certain categories, it's an expansion of no tax on tips or overtime, an increased deduction for seniors. So in all of those ways, people are going to be seeing and feeling more money back in their pockets this tax season. And that is a very helpful thing when you're trying to make ends meet in your family budget.
Congressman Ryan McKenzie, thank you so much for joining us.
Trump is a fucking moron. Amen, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you are enjoying the stream, remember to like and subscribe. But yeah, Trump is a fucking idiot, dude. He is completely destroying the image of America. Sorry, I'm stretching out here. But he's completely destroying the image of America, making us seem like a bunch of oligarchs rather than the freedom-loving people that we are.
Thank you.
Platforms that let you bet on the outcomes of future events have seen explosive growth
Here we
recently.
go. I thought this one
Our
would be
economics
interesting.
correspondent Paul Salman explains how so-called prediction markets work and why they're so popular and controversial.
These days, you can pretty much bet anywhere, anytime, on anything, like a word Trevor Noah will say on camera.
Potato. If you had me saying potato on Polymarket, you just made a ton of money.
That was a joke. No payoff for potato. But people were betting on what words would be said at the Grammys, not unlike betting on the weather.
According to the prediction markets, at least the chance that New York City gets
Bro,
over 6
why
inches of
betting
snow,
on the
we're talking-
weather? No way, bro. Dude, people are addicted to gambling. I'm sorry. Like, if you're betting on the weather, you have a problem.
51% chance. And get this, if Cardi B would perform in Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime extravaganza, as to whether this was a performance was hotly disputed by bettors yes and no. Now, prediction markets are hardly new.
Prediction markets have been around since the 16th century, much more recently, since around 1988, with the Iowa electronic markets.
We had big political prediction markets running literally on the curb of Wall Street about elections back in the late 1800s.
That was then, but this is now.
Today's prediction markets are a completely different game. One can essentially take
yeah.
positions across a host of different questions, including but definitely not limited to politics. Sports is by far the major category that is currently looked at, but certainly things like Oscars, who's going to be next Federal Reserve Chair. So it's really tapping into this appetite to grab people's attention, to do so in a way that is heavily influenced by social media. So that has really resulted in a mass appeal in a way that prediction markets just didn't have before.
Wagering has skyrocketed on two dominant platforms, Polymarket, which takes its bets in cryptocurrency, and Kalshi. In the week leading up to the Super Bowl, trading volume on the two platforms was almost $5 billion. How does it work? To wager, users buy a yes or a no event contract.
It's really a bet on whether something is going to happen or not happen. And just like stock markets, you have two sides to a transaction. There's one side betting yes, one side betting no.
Economist Rajiv Sethi has an example.
Who's going to get control of the House of Representatives during the midterms?
To bet on, say, the Democratic Party taking control,
the price on Polymarket is about 82 cents. So what that means is that somebody bought the yes side of that contract for 82 cents, and somebody bought the no side of that contract for 18 cents. If the Democrats do retake the House during the midterms, the yes side gets the dollar, otherwise the no side.
Now, to market aficionados, there's value in seeing what bettors do. It's often called the wisdom of crowds.
They actually put their money where their mouth is, and that means that the bets that are taken on these prediction markets
Check your shit is flying up today.
tend to have some pretty
We
informative
hit a pretty big crash yesterday.
What this does is it makes the information embedded that's already being traded transparent so that we can all use it. When I see that there's a 22% chance of J.D. Vance becoming the next president, that's actually really useful information. I can start to plan for what sorts of regulations my business might expect and things like that.
I don't know. The S&P had a huge dip at 12, and now it's slowly. It looks like it's climbing, but it's hitting a dip again. Yeah, it just went down. So I don't know.
Up to the 2024 presidential election, polls showed Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tied, but the markets didn't.
prediction markets, Polymarket in particular, was pointing towards a very different outcome than what the pollsters were suggesting.
The day before the election, Polymarket gave candidate Trump a 58% chance of winning. Now, part of the prediction market boom has been relaxed regulation. The Supreme Court okaying sports betting back in 2018. The increased ease of using virtual private networks, VPNs, to skirt restrictions online that allows Americans to use Polymarket despite a U.S. ban that began during the Biden administration.
There are many U.S. traders who bet on Polymarket, but they will use VPNs to operate as if they're accessing it from outside the United States.
Under the Trump administration, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission allowed Polymarket to open a regulated U.S. version.
The fact Tesla is still a company is a testament to complete mental degradation. More evidence. Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah, I do not like sowing doubt into our democracy. So I haven't really talked about the 2024 being stolen allegations, but they are out there, and I have seen some decently compelling evidence, but I would need something much more substantial than what's available right now.
List to use it. The unregulated version does not.
Polymarket is much more like the Wild West. Polymarket itself doesn't know who's trading on the platform because these are crypto wallets, and the real world identities of those folks are not visible even to the exchange in most cases.
And hey, that's not the only downside. How about insider trading? One Polymarket user made over $400,000 predicting the removal of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro.
Someone bet a lot of money 12 hours before Maduro was ousted that Maduro would be ousted. They did that in a way that kind of makes you think that some information may have leaked from the White House or the Department of Defense.
Yes, insider trading plagues all markets, but the sheer profusion and anonymity of bettors make the likes of Polymarket especially susceptible. Then there are cases like Brian Armstrong, CEO of crypto firm Coinbase, on an October earnings call.
I was a little distracted because I
Almost
was
as some
tracking
people
the
knew he was
prediction
gonna
market
win.
about what
Yeah.
Coinbase will say on their next earnings call. And I just want to add here the words Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, staking, and Web3 to make sure we get those in before the end of the call.
All words on which there were bets as to whether or not Armstrong would say them, though Armstrong said he was being spontaneous and his firm prohibits betting on prediction markets.
Regardless of whether or not he had a stake in the outcome, and I believe that he did not, or at least he stated that he did not, he had the ability to make some people a little bit richer and others a little poorer. And these kinds of markets are troubling for that reason.
And then there's the risk of compulsive gambling. Kalshi faces multiple lawsuits that cite its potential to lure young traders into addiction.
Gambling is just like many other drugs. It's highly addictive. And if you've ever had a friend who has become a compulsive gambler, and I have, they will bet money they don't have. They will destroy their family's well-being.
Of course, gambling addiction has been a problem for eons, but digital prediction markets, well, up the ante.
Given the fact that we all carry around a little screen that is a bookie in our pocket, you no longer need to walk to the corner.
Which means that prediction markets are a serious challenge for regulators.
Questions with respect to consumer protection are going to be front and center. What kind of disclosures will be given to people? Will there be limits on how much they can put into various markets? What about insider trading?
And in the end, it matters to bettors and the markets alike.
If you want to have a healthy market, you need to have healthy people who are participating in that market, that don't feel like that market is taking advantage of them, but giving them real opportunities to learn, to participate, to grow in ways that don't result in them losing their skin.
That would be nice. But in today's deregulatory environment, would you bet on it? For the PBS NewsHour, Paul Salman.
Well, think about it. Harris had 3% lead nationally the day before the election and was leading in all the swing states. Plus, there's a blue county in New York where she didn't get a single vote. That is weird. Now, I wouldn't trust polls necessarily just because they
Lucinda Williams has been making music
haven't
for
been the
decades. Now
best
she's out with a
at
new album.
predicting, but we're going to skip this battle cry segment. And yeah. So that was PBS NewsHour, ladies and gentlemen. Go give them a like and a sub. But we're going to split this up with some Dumbo octopuses. I mean, look at these cute little dudes. I made sure this wasn't AI, by the way. I made sure. Look at this guy. Oh my gosh, he's just sleeping. He's just sleeping, poor dude. I think we've seen this before. We've seen this part. See him floating. Oh. He's floating with his little ears. Isn't that adorable? These are known as the Dumbo octopi. I mean, that is the most adorable thing you've ever seen, don't lie. I want an octopus. I think I'm gonna get one. Hey, Kayla, what's up? Good to see you. Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting an octopus, sorry. Oh my goodness. Oh, he jumped. Okay, this is just a cuteness overload, gang. Sorry, I'm a big fan. Octopuses are cool, and so are squids. And they got a little eye. Oh, so cute. See, like in an ideal world, this... Is he eating a fish there? No, he's just feeling up on the fish. He's just checking it out. Oh my goodness. So adorable. They're highly intelligent too. Exactly. Exactly one of the reasons I like them so much. They're smart. Oh, this man's about to decimate one of those starfish. You just wait. Maybe not. Just so cute. He's just floating around. Anyways, thought we might break that up. Before we get into this video, what sex trafficking looks like. I think this is important to bring up because a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about what goes into what kind of went into Jeffrey Epstein's scandal. So we have this lady here. Her name is Seizure Girl. Go give her a like and a sub. And she's going to explain to us what sex trafficking looks like.
I'm here as a survivor of trafficking to let everybody know what is trafficking, what are the legal definitions, what goes into it, what are some red flags you could look out for, and also what are one or two of the legal definitions that are mostly used in trafficking, and also like an explanation of kind of what a trafficking situation would look like that most people don't assume according to movies. So when you think of trafficking, what comes to mind? Go ahead. Think about what you think comes to mind. A lot of people...
Cars.
For me, what comes to mind before everything was you're kidnapped, you're put in a van, and then you're put in a really bad situation and you're shackled up. So maybe it's from a movie scene like kidnapping and dark alleys, you're being locked indoors, but it's actually really different from that. So I'm going to go over...
Yeah, we saw this with we see this in Jeffrey Epstein's case. It's not this secret cabal. Well, it's not a bunch of people like just picking people up off the street. It's there's grooming and stuff that goes into it, and yeah, she'll explain further.
Are the three legal definitions. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly what trafficking is legally and psychologically. We'll talk about what it looks like, the definitions of trafficking, a real life example, the signs to watch out for, and most importantly, how we can help those still trapped in it. At the end of it, I will address the trolls who have been speaking very rudely, and then I will also directly address the survivors and or those that are still in trafficking, or even just the SEX industry, to try to give my perception of how I honestly do not believe that it is an enlightening experience and that it helps people from my perspective. I think it oftentimes will damage people deeply inside. So please stay with me. This isn't going to be an easy topic, but it's an important one for people to know, because by you knowing these things, you may be able to save somebody's life. So the legal definitions of trafficking, which nobody can change, nobody can erase. If you want to take it up with me, don't do that. Go and take it up with Congress and all the legal people. So the first one that we're going to do is force. Okay, I think we all know what kind of force is going to entail, and that's going to be physical violence, threats, confinement, or control of somebody. The next one is going to be fraud. Fraud consists of deception, false promises, or lies used to exploit somebody. The third one is coercion. This is manipulation, blackmail, threats, exploiting somebody's vulnerabilities like addiction, financial struggles, or homelessness. So out of these three, which one do you think is mostly used? Most people think it's force, okay? It's actually not going to be force. Most of the time, it's actually going to be fraud or coercion. So I'm going to give you an example of somebody that would be in a situation that would conspire these two situations. So let's take a woman, a young girl, for instance. She grew up in a really bad household. Her parents are not kind to her. There's a lot of maybe abuse, and she doesn't know what to do. She's been abused her whole life, and she's trying to get out. She meets a boy. This boy she ends up like falling for in a really deep way. And unfortunately, the boy uses what we know as, what's this going to be called? Lover-boy method. Okay? Now through this method, he's going to basically manipulate her and manipulate the situation to try to get her to come and be with him. He could say, I love you. I want to help you. I know some way that you can make money. You can just go on dinner dates with guys. It's super easy, and I will be there for you. The girl sees a way out through the boy. She trusts him. She's naive. Unfortunately, it's not all that it seems. So in order to get out and escape from the situation that she's in of serious abuse and trauma of growing up with an abusive parent and staying with one, she then leans on this boy to try to help her and to try to go into something. First of all, he's basically, what is he doing? He's lying. He already knows that when she gets on a Greyhound bus and goes 2 states away to go and meet with him, that there is no dinner dates. It's not getting paid for dinner dates. No, it's getting paid for what? Sexual acts. That's what it's getting paid for. 2, he might even involve a woman. This woman is going to be what we would call like somebody that is recruiting. These two people, lover boy and the woman, are recruiting this girl. They are using manipulated tactics, which is coercion. They are using deceit. They are lying. And when it comes to the fraud situation, lying about what's really happening.
He's giving promises. She ends up, what happens? The girl hops on the Greyhound bus. Ooh, Greyhound. Okay, she gets on the bus. She goes over there. She goes 2 states away. She then ends up inside of a basement at a house. It's not a terrible house. Doesn't look bad. It's just a nice looking house. But before she does that, she meets with the boy. The boy gives her kind of what, he said he would. Love. I love you. I will help you find a way out. And through that is the manipulation. So then they have a night together. They spend time together, kind of wrapping her in, okay? Then she goes to the basement. She comes to find out, after leaving her family, after leaving a note and believing that there was going to be a way to escape, what happens? She comes to find out that there is no dinner dates. She comes to find out that there is a menu. It's not a dinner menu. It's a menu with many different abbreviations and things like when we say LOL, there's going to be abbreviations for a sexual menu for her to pick through. At that point, she has no car, no money, nowhere to go. She is literally stuck, okay? And they target what type of girls? Young girls. Who else do they target? Girls, men, women, transgenders, anybody like that come from bad childhoods. It's a purposeful tactic. It's people that know what they're doing. She's been stuck. She doesn't know what to do. She starts grappling in her mind. What am I supposed to do? The girl, the woman that I talked about that she spoke to, she originally was telling her, hey, yeah, I go out to dinner with all these guys and they pay great money. There's no physical stuff involved. Not at all. Not unless you want to. But no, woman, by being a girl and then being this woman trying to verify, you're good. It's that none of that's gonna happen. Even though you asked. She what? She lied. That's where fraud comes into play. So the woman lied too. Okay? Everybody is lying to this one girl. Okay? Hello. She's not very happy anymore because she doesn't know what the hell to do with her life. She is stuck. She was brought into a situation where they lied about the actual job, they lied about the situation, they lied about the money, coercion. Let me see. When we talk about coercion, manipulation, they manipulated her. They manipulated her because of what she was going through. They manipulated her in a way of using the fact that she was in an abusive childhood and also was 18, 19, however.
Deeply divided issue. They're not agreeing with all of the reasons why.
No way. You guys couldn't hear me? How long was that going on for? How long was I muted for? I hope I wasn't muted for that long. I essentially was just talking about, no, this isn't it. I was essentially just talking about how, what goes into trafficking and stuff like that. Sorry about that. Gosh, I hate when that happens. I don't have a button. 1 to 2 minutes? Okay. That's weird. I don't have a button that, mutes me, so sorry about that, guys. Anyways, let's go to CNN, because I wanted to catch that piece they did about the tariffs. Supreme Court rules Trump's a 10% global tariff. Yeah, I know. I recently saw news about that.
Justices have decided in recent years here the Supreme Court ruling that President Trump's use of these emergency tariffs that he has implemented are illegal. It's the most significant economic case to reach the high court in years, sweeping implications for the economy and, of course, for presidential power. And at stake here are billions of dollars in revenue that have already been collected by the government. Pamela Wolf, the other significance here is that this is the first time that the 6-3 conservative court has ruled against President Trump in one of these major cases that have gone before the court since he returned to power in January. Now, we are still going through this case, but this is something we have been waiting for. The court said that it would take up this case on an expedited basis. So they're deciding, even though it's a significant case now, because of course this has enormous implications. So as we go through this opinion now with our team, another outstanding question is what now happens to all that revenue that had been collected? This is something it really wasn't clear from the arguments what they would say about that, if they're going to lay out a plan. So we will
Sound is low for the lady. Gotcha.
continue to go through this, but the argument has been in one of these major cases that have gone before the court since he returned to power in January. Now, we are still going through this case, but this is something we have been waiting for. The court said that it would take up this case on an expedited basis. So they're deciding, even though it's a significant case now, because of course this has enormous implications. So as we go through this opinion now with our team, another outstanding question is what now happens to all that revenue that had been collected? This is something it really wasn't clear from the arguments what they would say about that, if they're going to lay out a plan. So we will continue to go through this, but this is an enormous decision and a rare loss for President Trump before this conservative court.
This is, Paula, a major slap at the President of the United States, who has made a major effort over these many, many months to impose all of these tariffs. And just to look at some of the background I have here, over these many months, the administration has collected $150 billion in these tariffs. So what happens to that money? Do they have to refund that money to the firms, to the people who paid for those tariffs?
That's one of the big questions that came up at arguments, and it's something that we're looking through now in this opinion. The top line is that these are illegal, that the president cannot rely on this 1977 emergency law to impose tariffs without authorization from Congress, because this question is really about the extent of presidential power. And we know in both his terms in office, President Trump has really worked at the edges of what has largely been recognized as executive authority. But in these arguments back in November, they went on for 2.5 hours, it was clear that the justices were skeptical that President Trump could rely on this vague federal law to impose global tariffs. Now, they did appear to likely be willing to decide that these were illegal, but what is not clear, and we haven't gotten to this part of the opinion, is what happens to all that revenue that has been collected by the government. And President Trump has said himself that this is, this is a massive decision for him. So we're waiting for reaction, both from the Justice Department that argued this on his behalf, and also from the White House. But we're going to keep going through this, Wolf, to try to see if the justices laid out any plan for what happens to that revenue.
All right, Paula, stand by. I know you're going to be reading all these the opinions and everything. I want to get back to you, but I want to bring in our senior legal analyst, Elie Honig, right now. Elie, as I said, this is a huge setback for the President of the United States, and this has been a traditionally conservative Supreme Court, but they ruled that all of these tariffs that Trump has imposed over these many months are illegal. It's a big deal.
Well, Wolf, it's a monumental ruling, and the bottom line is that the tariffs Donald Trump announced back in April on Liberation Day are gone. They have been ruled illegal by this U.S. Supreme Court. An interesting array of justices here. In the majority, ruling that the tariffs are illegal is Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Gorsuch, and Justice Amy Coney Barrett, 3 conservatives who teamed up with the 3 liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, to rule these tariffs unconstitutional. The dissenters are Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh. And the basis for the ruling is this. Congress, not the president, Congress typically holds the tariff power. Now, Congress passed this law back in 1977 called the International Economic Emergencies Act. And Donald Trump tried to use that law to say, well, I'm declaring an international economic emergency, therefore I'm imposing tariffs. But the majority here said, no, that law does not authorize you to impose tariffs, and no, there is not a valid international economic emergency here. So the end result, and we are still going through this, but the end result is that Donald Trump's tariffs have been struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. But really important point I want to make, Donald Trump has said, various White House officials have said, if he loses on this basis, he will try to re-implement other tariffs through other laws, which he can try to do. However, those other laws are much more restrictive. They would not allow him to apply the type of sweeping, massive, across the globe tariffs that he tried to impose here, but have now been struck down. Look, Donald Trump said these tariffs are the single most important thing he has done in his presidency. He said that, and now they've been struck down by the court.
So you're right. The administration has made clear that if the court strikes this down, that they'll look at other tariff authorities to use. But bottom line here, Ellie, how big of a mess does this ruling create, given the fact that the administration says it has already received $150 billion in revenue, largely paid for by American businesses? Do they get a refund? What happens now?
Yeah, so it's hard to think of a case that has broader implications politically and legally and economically than this one. I know a lot of people are watching for this one. We don't yet have the answer. This was a question that came up during the oral argument. Amy Coney Barrett, in particular, asked the lawyers, well, what do we do with the $100+ billion that have already been paid by American importers, by American manufacturers? We're going to look carefully at this. I know Paul is reading this very carefully, but that's a huge question. Will there be some sort of mass refund program? Will the court rule that the tariffs are dead from here on out, but there are no repayments? We will let you know as soon as we get an answer to that one.
All right, as you noted, Paula has been reading through the opinion. I want to go back to Paula Reed because we know that 3 conservatives sided with the liberals on the court, and you have a quote from one of those conservatives, right, Paula?
That's right. Well, this is Chief Justice John Roberts, who wrote the majority opinion where the court agreed 6-3 that President Trump's tariffs exceed his power under the law. He wrote, quote, "The president asserts the extraordinary power to unilaterally impose tariffs of unlimited amount, duration, and scope. In light of the breadth, history, and constitutional context of that asserted authority, he must identify clear congressional authorization to exercise it." And we knew that the Chief Justice
surely
would
they have
be
to sue the USA. There's no, they can't sue Trump directly.
Vote after what we saw at arguments. Now, we are still going through this. I want to show you, this is about a third of the opinion. It's 170 pages long. This is just a fraction of it.
Wow.
So we're going through it very carefully to try to understand what, if anything, the court said about what happens to all that revenue the government has already collected. I know that's a big question right now.
Yeah,
we are
that's a
carefully
huge
going
question.
through this to see if they laid out a plan, if this goes back to the lower courts. That's what we're working to figure out right now.
And a quick question from me, Paula. Do the tariffs immediately go away as of right now, or does it take a few days or at least maybe a few weeks for them to be removed?
Well, they've been declared by the Supreme Court to be illegal. So we're going through to see if they laid out some sort of plan. But as of right now, people should not have to pay a tariff today or tomorrow, one would think.
Let's
But we're
go.
looking to see, because the logistics of this are so complicated, to see if the justices waded into that, or if all of that is going to be something that's now going to be tossed down to lower courts now that the justices have ruled on the larger constitutional question here, the separation sort of powers and who has the authority to do this, right? Because while this has enormous economic implications, really this was a question about the extent of executive power. We know President Trump really plays at the edges of that. And again, this is a rare loss for President Trump since he has returned to office before this conservative court. So
He's been losing left and right. I don't think this is a rare loss at all. I did want to see this about the 10% global tariffs. Let's watch that.
Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122, over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies. A new record. We set a record every time. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, look at that. Howard Lutnick. Epstein Island veteran here.
Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country. which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries
No
that
way.
have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy.
Oh, I bet they are,
And they're
Trump.
dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. That I can assure you. The
What
Democrats
does that
on the
mean?
court are thrilled, but they will automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices.
Thank you.
They're an automatic no.
What a kind individual. They're a disgrace to our nation. See, this is what I'm talking about. This divisive language. They just won't shut the fuck up about it. Your mama's hurting America? Whoa, dude. That's mean. Don't talk about my mom.
No matter how good a case you have, it's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty. It's one thing you can do with some of our people. Others think they're being politically correct, which has happened before far too often with certain members of this
What?
court. And it's happened so often with this court. What a shame. Having to do with voting in particular. When in fact they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats, and not that this should have anything at all to do with it. They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. It's my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller
Wow.
than people would ever think. It's a small movement. I won by millions of votes. We won in a landslide.
That's actually not true.
With all the cheating that went on, there was a lot of it, but we still won in a landslide. Too big
Hey, don't fucking snitch on yourself there,
to
Donald.
rig. But these people are obnoxious, ignorant, and loud. They're very loud. And I think certain justices are afraid of that. They don't want to do the right thing. They're afraid of it. This was an important case to me, more as a symbol of economic national security.
Yeah, he's trying to piss off the rest
And
of the
also,
Supreme Court. What an idiot.
I would say, just for our country itself, so important, because we're doing so well as a country. We've never done so well. The good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and authorities, as recognized by the entire court in this terrible decision, and also as recognized by Congress, which they refer to, that are even stronger than the IEEPA tariffs available to me as President of the United States. And in actuality, I was very modest in my ask of other countries and businesses because I wanted to do, and it's very important, I wanted to be very well behaved because I wanted to do anything, I didn't want to do anything that would affect the decision of the court. Because I understand the court. I understand how they're very easily swayed. I want to be a good boy. I have very effectively utilized
I want to be a good boy.
tariffs over the past year to make America great again. Our stock market has just recently broken 50,000 on the Dow.
Oh, yeah, trust
And
me.
simultaneously,
Trust me. We know. We know, buddy. We know about the Dow. Hold on. I did see Loner was live. I want to see what he's talking about here. Lonerbox, if you guys don't know, is my planet that I orbit.
Like, if they want to yell at me, it's fine. But one of the things that they consistently mention is like,
What? What is this? What? You didn't know that? Yeah. Lonerbox is my planet. Lonerbox is indeed my planet. Although I think I don't want to hold on. I just got to show you guys something. I don't want to say that he's learned about me. He's learned, I'm not going to say he took this idea from me, because he definitely didn't. Definitely didn't. But we do have the ADHD boxes here. We do indeed have the ADHD boxes here. Boner box? Yes. Good old boner box. Bub box. He's got the AD. I loved that. Hell yeah, dude. It's been a minute since I've been able to watch Loner, since I've just been so busy. And we typically stream at the same time, but I love that. I'm going to watch this.
And even more amazingly, broken 7,000 on the S&P.
That's true. He didn't have a Temple Run box. I need to get my ADHD boxes in order. The issue is I have to actually play my ADHD boxes. Or at least one of them. I don't have to with the Nick Shirley cam, which we need to change the loser POV at some point. I think it's pretty dire. Justice for Tara. Who's Tara?
He thought upon our landslide election victory could not be attained. Think of that. Nobody thought it was possible to do it within 4 years, and we did it in 1 year. They said, you'll never be able, you'll go back and you read the geniuses, read their statements, all of the Nobel Prize winners in economics. They said, no, you couldn't do it in 4 years.
The geniuses,
Well,
they all
we
said
didn't
it.
do it in 4 years. We did it in 1 year. We broke every record in the book, and we'll continue
Every
to
record.
do so. Tariffs have likewise been used to end
Biden's R.
5 of...
Hold on, my brother in Christ. Biden is not accused of R-wording anybody. I hope you know that. Trump is convicted of it, but yeah, Biden's, what's my body count? I don't really know, to be honest. It's somewhere up in the, I'll say it's, probably like, it's definitely double digits. I'm a whore, like a complete whore, so probably like, damn, that's a great question. I don't know. I'll just give a, like, probably like 30. Zero to zero range. I'd probably say like 20 to 30. That's probably my body count for both men and women and everything in between.
Of the 8 wars that I settled 8 wars, whether you like it or not, including India, Pakistan, big ones, nuclear, could have been nuclear. Prime Minister of Pakistan said yesterday at the great
Every
meeting
guy
that we had.
counts, you lie. I wish I did count, you know? I wish I did count because I've been asked that question. Yeah, I really haven't kept track, but if I'm thinking about all of my encounters, yeah, I'd probably say 20 to 30. Go Trump!
Scored.
Nuh-uh, we don't like Trump.
President Trump could have
You're
saved
triggering
35
me.
million
You're triggering me right now. Well, what can I say? I'm a bit of a in my real life, I'm a bit of a schmoozer, you know. I am very I'm not going to hype myself up. Screw that. You guys could all easily reach the same amounts, you know what I mean? You're all Chads and Stacys in there, so
lives by getting us to stop fighting. They were getting ready to do some bad things. But they've given us great national security, these tariffs have. And together with our strong borders, reduced fentanyl coming into our country by 30%. when I use them as a penalty against countries
Hey, a gentleman never kisses and tells. You know what I'm saying? A gentleman never kisses and tells.
illegally sending this poison into our country to poison our youth. All of those tariffs remain. They all remain. I don't know if you know that or not. They all remain. We're still getting them, and we will after the decision. I guess there's nobody left to appeal to. But again, those three people, such respect. I've had a lot of respect for them anyway, but such great respect. But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives.
Enough about that. Sorry to hit you with a curveball. No problem. No problem at all. I'm an open book. You know what I'm saying? For any guys out there, the hardest part is just asking for the number. You know what I mean? If you can rip that Band-Aid off, you're good.
Alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so. To show you how ridiculous the opinion is, however, the court said that I'm not allowed to charge even $1. I can't charge $1. Can't charge $1.
Yeah, get fucked, Trump. Can't charge $1. Dude, if only he wasn't funny. That's the shitty thing about Trump, is that he does have a high charisma stat. And so, I don't know. Trump should do whatever he wants. It's been pure shit in America for the last 50 years? No, it hasn't. What are you talking about? We won the Cold War. We were the dominant superpower. What are you talking about? Been shit here in America. This place is fucking sick. Or get a boat. They won't say, because of the implications. The implications.
It's 1 penny, but we don't make the pennies anymore. We save money. Can't charge $1 to any country under IEEPA. Not $1. I assume to protect other countries. This must have been done to protect those other countries, certainly not the United States of America, which they should be interested in protecting. That's what they're supposed to be protecting. But I am allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country.
They keep telling me there's a thing called rules. Homeless population out of control. I agree with that. It's definitely really, no one should be falling asleep in the outside in America. But there are ways to deal with that. The big issue with homelessness is just building homes. We need more. But when you try to build homes, you run into a lot of issues like zoning regulations and stuff like that. So I'm personally, if you've ever heard of the abundance kind of idea, that's what I'm here for. Vets off themselves daily. Yeah, I know, it's sad. But I think that we empower the VA instead of just treating it like it's nothing. We need to empower the VA.
I'm even allowed to impose a foreign
Hell yeah.
country-destroying embargo. I can
Soros.
embargo. I can do anything I want, but I can't charge $1. Because that's not what it says. And that's not the way it even reads. I can do anything I want to do to them, but I can't charge.
Yeah, Jim, I'm telling you, I agree that we have not treated our veterans well. But that doesn't mean we can't do better. And that doesn't disregard all of the good things we've done.
Any money. So I'm allowed to destroy.
Big issue with homelessness is get rid of illegals living. They don't live off the taxpayer dime. Undocumented immigrants do not have any access to the federal, to any federal benefactory programs.
the country, but I can't charge them a little fee. I could give them a little 2-cent fee, but I cannot charge under any circumstances. I cannot charge them anything. Think of that. How ridiculous is that? I'm allowed to embargo them. I'm allowed to.
Yes, they do. Where's your proof? I need proof that there are illegal immigrants, as you would call them, taking advantage of federal assistance programs. Yes, they do. Even FEMA. Okay, show me the evidence. Yeah, if they're undocumented, they don't have access to it. Like, it's really simple, you know? It's not like this grand conspiracy. Well, that's why I think we should make these people citizens so they can pay into the services that they use. But an ER visit is a lot different than Medicaid.
To tell them you can't do business in the United States anymore. We want you out of here. But if I want to charge them $10, I can't do that.
Well, you should want people having babies in America. You should want people having babies in America. The older generations aren't making babies. And the newer generations that are American bred and born, they're not worried about making babies, dude. You should be overjoyed that a section of the population wants to make babies.
It's incorrect. Their decision's incorrect. But it doesn't matter because we have very powerful alternatives that have been approved by this decision.
But their existence here makes our life cheaper. So I think we should turn them into citizens. Have them come out of the shadows. Good luck. You exposed yourself. It's already been shown, man. Those luring centers. What fraud did Nick Shirley expose? Have there been any federal indictments? Moving the goal? What was the goalpost? You asked what they get. So yes, I will admit that if a person who is dying or having a child comes into the hospital will pay for that. That's just like a basic human service though, and that's not a program. So stop being disingenuous because you know what I'm talking about. You know I'm not talking about hospital visits. You implied that they take advantage of federal programs. But you can't provide any evidence of that.
You know, they've been approved by the decision for those that thought they had us. And they're saying that I have the absolute right to license, but not the right to charge a license fee.
Okay, so you're telling me that if a undocumented individual comes into a hospital, they should just leave them there? Is that what you're telling me? I want to know. Because if it's such a drain, it seems like that's what you're suggesting. Because there will always be undocumented people in America, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to get rid of every one of them. And Trump's even creating more undocumented people by canceling temporary protected status.
So think of that. I have the right to license, which is a very powerful word. In many ways, license is more
But
powerful.
you implied they were taking advantage of federal programs. So please show me the evidence that they are taking advantage of federal programs. Republicans get money? I don't know about that one. You know what? You are right. They do get money. As a matter of fact, they get so much money. If you take a look here, they get way more than the Democrats. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That is a huge divide. They get way more money than the Democrats. You're right. by the 100 wealthiest Americans, they do get way more money. I agree with that. Oh yeah, about the tariffs. You know, I think that the tariffs, like, when they're targeted, they're obviously an amazing, they're an amazing tool, but if they're not targeted, then they just seem like such a waste. It seems like, to me, it's just a wealth transfer. Anyways, just interesting. You were right. They do get money.
Than tariffs. In fact, I was thinking about using it.
Good to see you, by the
But
way.
they came
the
up
real
with
RJ.
the idea that I can license, just like the people that were opposing me told them to do, but not the right to charge a license fee. Think of that. Who ever heard of such a thing? What license has ever been issued without the right to charge a fee? You get a license, you charge a fee. It's automatic, but not with this court. But now the court has given me the unquestioned right to ban
Yeah, that's
all
just the proof nobody likes, okay? We don't like that
all
proof.
sorts of things from coming into our country to destroy foreign countries. But a much more powerful right than many people
But
ever thought.
millionaires by far lean right. Yeah, I would agree. You know, there maybe back in the 2010s, there was definitely like a lot more liberal billionaires, but now they've all kind of fallen in line, it feels.
Thought we even had, but not the right to charge a fee. How crazy is that? Our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. And it was a dead
Sir, are
country
you okay?
1.5 years ago under an incompetent president. But now I'm going to go in a different direction. Probably the
Yeah, what about the 10 billion Trump gave to the Board of Peace? That's a good point. If you guys were so concerned about money, then what about all the billions Donald Trump is giving to foreign countries and world leaders abroad? What about that? Yeah, we have Elon doing Nazi salutes. It's crazy. Yeah, I forgot about that, dude. I just now realized I wasn't live. Hello, what's up, my favorite lefty? Hey, what's up, gamers? Good to see you, RJ.
direction that I should have gone the first time, but I read the language. I'm very good at reading language, and it read our way.
Okay. Come on, man. I'm very good at reading language, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very good at it. Hold on. I have to make sure I heard that right.
Probably the direction that I should have gone the first time, but I read the language. I'm very good at reading language, and it read our way 100%, but now I'll go the way I could have gone originally.
What? He just sounds mad. He doesn't even sound like...
Which is even stronger than our original choice.
Okay.
As Justice Kavanaugh, whose stock has gone so up, you have to see, I'm so proud of him, wrote in his dissent, although I firmly disagree with the court's holding today, the decision might not substantially constrain a president's ability to order tariffs going forward. So, think of that. The decision might not substantially constrain. And it doesn't, he's right. In fact, I can charge much more than I was charging. So I'm going to just start. Although I firmly disagree with the court's holding today,
Dude, he is... What is this ramble? I mean, he's threatening, right? He's threatening, like, obviously. But this is just a ramble. Nazi president? Amen. What's up, Plant Man Cheesehead? I like that name. That's a sick-ass name, dude. Oh, yeah, he sounds like the, would you rather, would you, could you? I know what you're talking about.
decision might not substantially constrain a president's ability to order tariffs going forward. That's because numerous other federal statutes, which is so true, authorize the president to impose tariffs and might justify most, if not all, of the tariffs issued in this case. Even more tariffs, actually. Those statutes include, think of that, those statutes.
Dude, Justice Kavanaugh is such a fucking... These are so blatantly unconstitutional. Like, how... He should be, honestly, pretty ashamed of himself. I mean, they're blatantly unconstitutional. Our founding fathers did not want a president to have that much unilateral power. Trump and Kavanaugh bromance? Oh, yeah. Good old Justice Kavanaugh's getting freaky with Donnie Boy. It's not a conservative position to give, the president unlimited tariff power. Exactly, dude. Like, I love free trade. I think trade is much better free because it leads to more opportunities. You know, obviously I want limits. Like, you can't trade people. I think that's a good place to start. But like, they just feel so un-American, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, freedom is our entire thing. And so when you put a limit on who you can trade with, the markets agree. Yeah, I heard, well, earlier, I think actually during this press conference, I did see a dip, but they are starting to go back up.
Include, for example, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Section 232.
So something that would be disastrous, in my opinion, is if he announces new tariffs. Because you've now lulled the market into feeling like, oh, we're safe now. And then you put that back on them, that could be disastrous.
All of these things I know so well. The Trade Act of 1974, Sections 122, 201, 301, and the Tariff Act of 1930, Section 338, all clear.
A 100-year-old rule, dude. Come on. You can do better than that.
Longer process. I thought I'd make things simple, but they didn't let us do that. I would like to thank Justice Kavanaugh for frankly, his genius and his great ability.
Yeah, fuck Kavanaugh, dude.
That appointment.
He definitely R-worded that woman.
In actuality, while I am sure that they did not mean to do so, the Supreme Court's decision today made a president's ability to both regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful and more crystal clear rather
Oh, there it goes.
Less. I don't think they meant that. I'm sure they didn't. It's terrible. And to think that the Democrats who oppose this only because they want to go the opposite way, they'd like to pack the court. They want to put on 21 people. They want to pack the court, pack the Supreme Court. Maybe they should do it. Maybe they would be better off if they did it. They want to pack the court. They want to do anything to hurt our country. There will no longer be any doubt, and the income coming in.
Like, dude, do I seem like somebody who wants to hurt the country? Like, what is this bullshit? It's just so annoying. Can't believe you have more evidence than law enforcement, or perhaps that's not a very objective statement. Oh, I mean, I was just memeing.
And the protection of our companies and country will actually increase because of this decision. I don't think the court meant that, but it's the way it is. Based on long-standing law and hundreds of victories, and even, as I was pointed out before, even thousands of victories over the years, to the contrary, the Supreme Court did not overrule tariffs. They merely overruled a particular use of IEEPA tariffs. And essentially, it's to use to get a fee. I can do anything I want with IEEPA. Anything. I just can't charge anybody for it.
Listen, Trump, IEEPA is not a 12-year-old on Epstein's Island. It's a law. Contain yourself, man.
I can license, I just can't charge them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, at least, hey, that's a good point. At least Obama and Biden looked at the American people. He just reads off a script. There's nothing creative about him. This is a horrible picture, by the way. Look at how, what is this? Yeah, they didn't need a script. Amen. True leaders really don't. I'm saving that. That's going to be in the next thumbnails. I think I'm going to make some new thumbnail art here soon so you guys can have some spicy memes.
But it's okay because we have other ways, numerous other ways. The ability to block, embargo, restrict, license, or impose any other condition on a foreign country's ability to conduct trade with the United States under IEEPA.
Trump is Netanyahu's B word? Well, that's why I said, I may, this man said he was going to be Israel's best friend. It was right in front of him. He's using a paper instead of a teleprompter. You're slow if you think they weren't reading. Well, I mean, he could use a teleprompter. You know what I'm saying?
Has been fully confirmed by this decision. So now there's no doubt because, there were a lot of questions about tariffs because no president was smart enough to use
Hey, you can't lie. You can't lie. Obama did have he had a speech. It had a very good charisma. High charisma stat. His speech was at least at 90.
to protect our country from those countries and businesses that were ripping us off. You took a look at the deficits that we had with some of these countries. It was disgraceful what they got away with for many, many decades.
I was just gonna make it how my normal ones are, but for Rage and Resist, I am in talks about making a little bit of artwork for that. And we will have Spotify up and running by hopefully the end of today. You think Trump is hurting America? You let Democrats take over and there will be no more America. No, we love America, dude. We're trying to make things more affordable for Americans. We're trying to give them affordable health care. For sure. Great at tricking people. Oh, I think the ACA was actually, I had some leftists in here saying the ACA sucked, but I think the ACA was really revolutionary. I mean, not being able, for insurance agencies, for it to be illegal to discriminate on pre-existing conditions is pretty huge in my opinion. Just like Mamdani. I mean, I think Mamdani's doing fine. I've seen some good things coming out of there. Hey, Trump even thinks Mamdani's fine. The stupidity of hatred is killing America. There's nothing wrong with working hard to earn food and eat. Loving God is better than freeloading. Who's freeloading? That's just a random talking point.
But now we know because this decision affirms all those things that some people weren't sure about.
By the way, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please remember to like and subscribe. I do a show very frequently, almost every day. I try to do it every day, but sometimes the sleep gods demand my mind. So, but I'm usually
in order to
live
protect,
every day.
and it says so. in order to protect our country, a president can actually charge more tariffs than I was charging in the past period of a year under the various tariff authorities. So we can use other of the statutes, other of the tariff authorities,
Other of the statutes.
which have also been confirmed and are fully allowed. Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect.
I'm not enjoying what mind, by the way. Aw. Well, I'm sorry you're not enjoying the show, Terry. What can I do better to make your viewing experience as pleasant as possible? Please let us know. We're waiting with bated breath for your review, Terry. Yeah, just please explain to me how the viewing experience would be better. Trump for king? Dude, that is so un-American and gross. Liberal tears are flowing! You got me. I'm crying like a big baby. I'm blubbering out here. Anyways, let's continue listening to, I've noticed with Trump's face on the screen, it gets a lot more of MAGA. Maybe I should put it in the loser box. I don't know.
Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122, over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301.
Well,
and
I think
other-
I think a government safety net is good to a certain extent. Like, I would pay half of my salary if it meant my fellow man got to eat, sleep, had a full belly at night, got to sleep in their own quarters, and got free medical care. I mean, I don't think it's that much to ask, really. And then we expand things like the IRS, who can check if they're committing some sort of fraud or something like that. Like, I don't think these things are necessarily that bad. I don't think it promotes laziness. I really don't. I think lazy people are going to be lazy people, regardless of if they're on government safety or not. Should do that. Plenty of charities do that. Well, that's not necessarily true. And yes, there are plenty of charities, but I don't think that the charities meet the demand. The private market is not meeting it. A man should reap what he sows. I disagree. What if, some people get caught up in life, and we all have bad things happen, and to have the ability to not be worried about starving, not be worried about going homeless. You don't believe in the science of investigation. What's the science? What are you talking about? What investigation? We all hit bad points in our life. You don't think charity meets the demand, so you're going to force everybody to give up the money they worked for. Well, if we want to really say, like, if we're going to extract it to the levels of taxation, I mean, yeah, you worked for it a little bit, but did you, start the company that you worked for? Like, if we want to go this far back, I mean, you didn't really work, you put in the physical labor, but somebody else did, all the other work. So it's, they're just kind of giving you money. So you know. I just think that's how, like, you see how stupid that is? Like, that's how stupid I feel it is when you say stuff like that.
Their investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other.
I went to school for 8 years while other people did drugs. I owe them something? Well, number one, I think that's kind of not necessarily an accurate picture, but two, I think you do owe your community and your society something. Yes. Because it will increase your living standards if you help out other people around you and lift them up into higher living standards.
Other countries and companies. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and I say quite simply, which I've said for a long time, make America great again. And interestingly, we've already made it great.
But guys, we're soon going to be living in a post-work society. Like, I truly believe that. Well, it doesn't lift them up into higher living standards. It does. It does lift them up into higher living standards. So they can buy more drugs. You need to be moved to big city, chief. Well, I enjoy my small town, and I believe the small towns is where many Americans live, so I've been to big cities, but I am much more focused on small town politic, as in, like, rural society politic. I think democratic policy can definitely help in those areas. Are you in high school or something? Because you're saying more and more ridiculous things by the minute. No, the real RJ, I am not. And all for nothing? What are you talking about? California's homeless population has decreased. Anyways, we should let's get back on topic and stop meme-holing ourselves. I meme-holed myself a little bit. I won't lie. Hey, you got to admit when you get meme-holed. I meme-holed myself with that not paying for, or like, you technically don't do work argument. That's a meme-hole. Because, like, technically you could say that's true, but it's not really in practice true.
To use that, but I don't think we'll ever give up.
If you go to work, you should be getting paid for your time.
MAG is always going to be with us. If you have
and your work
a few
is
questions,
valuable.
You can.
I think that's something that does kind of. A lot of people feel like their work isn't valuable. And that's affecting employment rates amongst my generation. And I'm trying to think of how you can solve for that.
Let us know.
Hello.
But just to end, so we're going forward.
Leonard Wubbles? Leonard Wubbles. 7545. God, I think I'm developing dyslexia, guys. Can you do that? Can you develop that? Is that something that you can actually develop?
We will be able to take in more money, and there'll no longer be doubt, because there was always doubt. I know the people that brought the lawsuit, and they're sleazebags, major sleazebags, but I know them, and they're foreign country centric. They were sending things into our country, and the people representing them knew full well, but they were sending things into our country, and they were beneficial to other countries, but very, very bad for us. And I stopped it.
What are they supposed to do? Doing drugs on the street? I mean, that's kind of the freedom of America, man. You should be able to do that type of stuff. But I think you need to address, if you want to address addiction specifically, you need to address the root problem of it. Is Trump a Jew? What? No, I'm pretty sure he's a white. It's like, I don't know what his ethnicity is. Why would I know that? Supposed to arrest the people doing the drugs? Yes, because historically that has worked out so well. No, the root problem isn't they love doing drugs. The root problem is something in their life is so bad that they need to resort to leaving their normal feelings and being intoxicated. Listen, Leonard, I am not anti-Semitic, man. I think I have a lot of friends from Israel. I have a lot of Jewish friends. I also have a good amount of Palestinian friends. So it doesn't really matter what he is.
And we'll just keep it going. So we have
the root exactly, Tyler. The root problem is no support system. They are given free apartments, and those apartments get condemned within a year because they don't take care of them. So there should be a support system, set of people that teach these people how to live, how to do things that they may not have been taught. But instead, your solution is to just lock them up. Oh, they just lock them up. Well, I don't think that's how you deal with an issue. That's just tossing the game board over and saying, nope, I don't want to deal with it. They can be provided to get I don't think you should force them to be sober. But right now the issue is there are barely any programs that help these people.
more of a...
By the way, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm a liberal that does a show, or I try to do a show every day. Oh, hold on. You don't know about the meth epidemic in Midwestern America? What are you talking about? There is a major meth epidemic in our cities. You don't know what you're talking about. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody look at the real RJ in chat. He is sitting here on his ivory tower saying us peasants can't talk about politics. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. College degree, but I'm from America. And in America, anybody can talk about anything. That's our right. No, 3 people per square mile? Yeah, that's not how the town in the town that I live in is, but that's all right. You can avoid them. Oh, that's easy to say when they break fucking countless property in our... What are you talking... See, this is literally what I'm talking about. Yeah, the prison population sits at about 1.2 million. Is that not enough? Like, so what's your solution, man? What is your solution? I'm providing you with an actual solution. Give these people housing. Give these people counseling. They will get off of those drugs. But what is your solution? I want to know.
Totally firm decision now. And I don't think the court meant it because the court doesn't show great...
All right, but that was Trump's latest temper tantrum. Well, they need to start by wanting to live. Bottom line is nobody is forcing anyone to consume drugs. It's 100% a choice. Yes and no. Because while initially starting drugs, it is a choice. If you get addicted, then there is gonna be that chemical hook as well as a emotional hook. It's your coping mechanism. Okay, first you arrest them. Okay, great. So right off the bat, we arrest them, charge them with criminal charges. Okay, great. Okay, and then you provide them housing as long as they stay sober. So if they don't stay sober, they get arrested? Jesus Christ, bro. That is not... So you're going to have you just want way more. You just want way more people in our prisons. That's great. Love that. Anyways, I don't think I have much else to talk about. I do think this would be interesting. Iran is about to break by war fronts. Troll? Yeah, probably. Guns, trans, ICE, and election cheating. Jesus Christ, that's not a combo I want to listen to. We could watch a Benny Johnson piece. Well, let's watch this piece by War Fronts, and then I'll probably end the stream. You just want to excuse... No, I don't want to excuse illegal behavior, but I understand that not having these services and putting them in jail isn't going to be solving the problem. You want them to cost more because the average cost of an inmate is way more than the average cost of just generally housing somebody. Bro said we're going to be a workless society soon. Bro, you obviously don't believe in AI then. Like, what is it? Is AI this? So what is AI? You know? Yes, we are going to be seriously thinking about what does work look like. Now, I meant soon as in like 30 to 50 years. Not soon as in tomorrow. Well, I agree. You shouldn't be using drugs. Like, if you're on drugs, you're typically using it to replace a feeling inside of you. If you're on drugs. If you're addicted, I should say. So, address my other point. I don't want to talk about AI. If you think I'm in a bubble, you must not see my chat, because my chat continually has people that disagree with me and people that agree with me. Have less than 100 people watching their stream. Dude, I have never seen a MAGA stream hit more than 10. So, what's the solution? Solution to what? Cute Puppy 2422. Interesting name. All right, we're going to get started on this war piece about War Fronts piece about Iran. If you guys don't know who War Fronts are, they are an amazing channel. Why do we give drugs to our children? I have no idea what that even means. Watch, I bet they're going to be like, HRT!
Oh, what's that sound? Oh yes, dear audience, those are the
Oh, it's a choice. Everything else you said is an excuse. Is that what you... Okay, bro, I get what you have to tell yourself. And I understand. Like, you beat it, and I'm very proud of you, actually. But I knew it, trans drug. That guy's a troll. Play the video from Discord? Oh, yeah, let me... check it out. All right. This is a video submitted by user Soros Taylor, so let's check it out.
You ever look at a homeless person and think to yourself, must be nice, you know, just to be like, fuck it. Because if you're like a working class asshole like us, life keeps fucking me up my ass.
Okay, I don't agree with. I'm sorry, Soros. I gotta be honest. I don't agree with this.
Every year I gotta make more room in my asshole for the government to fit another one in there. Inflation, rent, price of gas, what's happening in Gaza. And then you look at the homeless dudes just chilling with the boys. You see some pretty lady go by, you already know you're not gonna fuck her. Might as well pull your dick out. She runs, you laugh, get high fives from the boys. What's gonna happen? You're gonna call the police? What are you gonna do now? Take me in and give me a bed? You ever look?
You know, I get what. Amen. Sometimes I do just wish I was homeless. Now, most homeless people do not choose to be homeless, and you know what? If they I think we just had this entire fucking conversation. Bro ran from the nail in the coffin argument. What? I'm trying to see what you said, and I'm not seeing any other. See, RJ, you just have an issue with people that are homeless. I guarantee you're one of these people that think, oh, the homeless, they're just lazy. And yeah, you don't care about sexual assault because Trump sexually assaulted multiple women. You were about to say if they choose to be homeless, then so what, the taxpayer will just pay for them? That doesn't make any sense, man.
Drums of war beating loud over there in the Persian Gulf, louder than they have at any point since the United States invaded.
No, not me and you, Soros. We just been talking about homelessness for a minute. You keep saying things without substantial evidence. Where was an evidential claim in your entire rant, man? Like, where is the substance of your claim when you say, first you arrest them to get them sober? How do you think that, where's the evidence that that is going to lead to a recovery rate? And then you provide housing as long as they stay sober, and if they don't, they get arrested for a vacancy. So you're just going to have an endless system of people going into jail, coming out, going into jail, coming out. That just sounds like an even worse system than what we have right now. Lack of evidence? No, Trump, there is evidence that Trump R-worded a woman. Sorry, man.
Iraq in 2003.
And just because a court didn't decide to indict Mr. Kavanaugh does not mean that he's innocent in the eyes legally, for sure.
Washington has been flooding the region with as much hardware as it can afford to spare, which, as will likely not come as a surprise, is quite a fucking lot of hardware. But if anyone is expecting a full rerun of 2003 with a little boots on the ground style invasion and occupation...
I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people in California that disagree with you, man. You're like one of these Republicans that live in California that hate it, but most people love it there. That's why the housing prices are so high. Sorry.
Then they're likely going to be disappointed by what the build-up doesn't feature, namely any ground forces. It is clear that whatever Washington plans to achieve in Iran, they want to do so from an air and sea approach, not anything akin to previous adventures in the Middle East that saw American forces get bogged down.
This dude is against free speech? Bro, Trump was not the fucking... Are you talking about that FBI call where he was like, oh God, I'm so glad you guys caught Epstein. He was the big one. He was the bad one. Not me. So embarrassing.
In fighting for well over a decade. The question is whether that's enough, whether air power alone can break an Iranian regime that spent half a century building itself to withstand exactly this kind of
proven propaganda page. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. You Trumpers just see anything that disagrees with you and calls it propaganda. So embarrassing.
Pressure, but that regime could also be close.
But if any of you think you are brave enough, you can always call into the show. Here, let me get up my call-in line. I thought I had it open, but I guess not. Feel free to call in. You know, I haven't had any call-ins yet. Mostly because MAGA is very cowardly. Bro, no way you are a real person. No way.
Closer to collapse than it's ever been. Gunboat diplomacy. Now, when the United States last struck Iran back in June of 2025, the operation was built to do some very precise damage, send a message, and...
Yeah, I know. I gotta go to work here soon too, man. This is my hobby.
Then end. Operation Midnight Hammer put 14 GBU-57 bunker busters into Iran's underground nuclear facilities at Fordow and Natanz.
Called to be talked over and muted? You obviously have never seen me debate anybody, because that is not what I do. But if that's what you want to believe, that's okay. At the gas station. See, look, it's the Ivory Tower MAGA. It's the Ivory Tower MAGA. They think they're better than us. They really do have this snooty in the air. Oh, you work at a fucking gas station. In case anyone was wondering what informed this guy wanting the taxpayer to hold up the bottom line. Wow, that is, that's interesting, RJ. John, I'm sorry you're not entertaining enough to have your own stream. I am. But could you please stop projecting?
With more than 24 Tomahawk missiles striking the facility at Isfahan to even things out. The Pentagon assessed...
I don't need the government to pay my bills, RJ. I am doing just fine on that. I do not watch Destiny. I'm actually not a fan of Mr. Steven. I mean, he's cool, but...
The strike sent their nuclear program back roughly 1 to 2 years, though other leaked analysis painted a...
MAGA is just soying out right now because they're not doing too well. You know, the court just ruled that Trump's tariffs were illegal. IDK 11 trolls isn't popularity. I don't know. I think that shows some popularity, my friend. There's no shot you pay rent with gas station cash. Well, I live in a small town, so the housing isn't too expensive here.
Less rosy view of the situation. Regardless, what wasn't in dispute was the message. This was a genuinely huge escalation that showed that force was very much on the table in a way
that... Most of MAGA, that is not true at all. That's cope. That is cope, my friend. Cry harder. I think that's very telling. You know what I mean? They're like, cry harder. You're crying. It's very telling.
Had previously been unthinkable. What the United States is assembling in the region right now shares almost none of these characteristics, and the differences are...
Yeah, I agree. Our town would very much benefit from more immigration.
Two carrier groups, the Abraham Lincoln, already in theater, and the Gerald R. Ford, redeployed from the Venezuela.
John, you just sound very triggered by me. I don't know why that is. You do sound very triggered, my friend. And I just want to make sure you, Oh, no, I have a browser call-in, Soros. Yeah, I use YouTube Google. YouTube Google. That's great. Understand legal versus illegal immigration. So, Garrett, what are the legal ways you can come into the U.S.? I don't know, man. You do sound kind of triggered.
50 combat aircraft between them and a support infrastructure that tells
Poor
you...
John, he's just too cowardly to call into the show or actually debate somebody. I feel bad for people like this. You know what I mean? It's like they can't actually engage in political discussion, and so they just try to insult. But that's all they have, you know? They don't have any actual arguments. And I think that's sad. Well, I gotta end the stream here soon, guys, but we'll end this video.
Everything about what kind of operation this is designed to sustain. The development also reflects some hard lessons from the last round, when Iran fired...
Damn, John, then you must not have very many conversations, poor guy. Talk about weed and video games? Maybe tomorrow. You know, we are getting towards the end, so... But I'm down tomorrow, Skippy, if you want to call in and talk about some weed and video games.
Over a dozen missiles at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar during the June War. American and Qatari Patriot batteries intercepted most of them. Trump rather characteristically called the move.
I do have to do something real quick, and that is... Oh my god, so fucking annoying. Get the fuck out of my channel, you know what I'm saying? And you know what? Fuck you too, John. I do not want to... I do not want to even imagine what the fuck your goddamn feet smell like, weirdo. I'm not gonna stand for you making fun of me. Like, you can make fun of my political positions, but god damn, dude. To make fun of a person's job? That's fucked up. So annoying.
Move, a very weak response. But one did get...
Anyways, guys, if you guys are enjoying the channel, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out in the algorithm and gets me boosted out there.
Through the president's condescension aside, the speed at which the US burned through its interceptor stockpiles alarmed planners enough that Washington...
You know, I gotta know when to fucking kick people. And if you're just gonna make fun of my job or my living, you know, I think that's fucked up. Yeah, assholes. Exactly.
Has since pre-positioned its most advanced missile defense systems across the region to absorb whatever retaliation comes next. And yet, in spite of this, there's one component completely absent from this. And the comparison that matters here isn't a Midnight Hammer, but to...
You know what, Sirius, if you wanted to call in, man, you can call. Or Skippy, you can call in if you want, man. Feel free to.
The build-up that preceded America's last large-scale war in the region. While this may be the largest air concentration since the 2003 Iraq invasion, it's missing the ground component entirely. Back then, American troops and heavy armor were staged across Kuwait and allied bases over months of deliberate preparation.
No one to fold them, no one to kick them. That's true. I always just, I try to keep it as fair and open, but it is annoying, you know what I mean?
A coalition force that ultimately exceeded 250,000 personnel. The optics were clear. If they were going in, they were going in guns blazing. None of that is present here, and nobody...
And also, you know, it'll, like, who wants to be... I'll bet 20 on Polymarket you won't call in. Well, I mean, hey, Skippy, he just wanted to talk about weed and video games. He's cool. But yeah, you gotta know when to kick people and stuff.
Washington, not even the most.
I recently discovered that in a conversation that I had recently with another content creator.
Hawkish voices in the administration.
And who wants to come into a chat and just see them making fun of people? I don't think anybody wants that. Hold that L? I don't have an L in my name, so I won't be able to do that. Better unban me after stream. Well, are you gonna continue to make fun of my job and how I make money?
Administration is seriously proposing a ground war at all, let alone anything that would resemble the Iraq War-style surge back in 2003. So what exactly is Washington planning to do with this air campaign? The playbook. Okay, quick confession, despite repeated requests, we still haven't been added to that bloody Signal chat. So all that follows is based on our analysis of the situation rather than insider knowledge. Although, Hexeth, if you're watching this, how about a sneaky invite? You know you want to. Now, Signal chat or no Signal chat, we'll do our best at evaluating the options here. Trump said yesterday that he would decide his next move within 10 days to 2 weeks, adding that the United States was going to get a deal.
I won't, but I do think, well, I think that it's important to, you know, I'm doing the same thing every other American is doing. I put on my boots and go to work just like everybody else. I don't think that's a real point of, you know, I think it's fine. And I make a good amount of money. I don't, you know, I'm not living poor out here, man.
Or it's going to be unfortunate for them. He's been clear that total regime change would be his preference, going so far as to say,
I know you said you'd be ending stream soon, but I'd like to actually talk about immigration sometime. I mean, I'll be live tomorrow at 10 if you want to call in.
a new government there would be the...
All right, RJ. I do enjoy you, so I will. I do think people deserve second chances, so I will unban you after stream.
Best thing that could happen for Iran, but has also.
But yeah, for sure, Mr. Fisher. I'd love for you to call in tomorrow or something. It's just we are getting towards the end of the stream, and I'm gonna be shutting it down, so.
Attempting to find a diplomatic route in lieu of military action. And look, this isn't exactly a let's all sit down and reach a compromise sort of negotiation. I mean, rather, Washington's approach has largely consisted of surrender, or we're gonna fucking bomb the shit out of you. But a Wall Street Journal article published that same day revealed that the administration's internal deliberations are not based on a simple choice between diplomacy and a full-scale regime change campaign. Senior aides have been presenting Trump with options that start small and work their way up. An initial limited strike targeting a handful of military or government sites, designed as something of an opening shot. Should Tehran still refuse their demands after that, the strikes would escalate, broadening into the kind of sustained weeks-long campaign against regime facilities that this build-up is clearly designed to support. But the administration does have a recent reference point for how they'd like this to play out, even if the comparison only stretches so far. It's not a perfect analogy, not by a long shot, but Venezuela does loom large over this whole potential operation, especially if things start to heat up. American forces captured Nicolas Maduro in a surgical operation, identified his vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, as someone willing to cooperate with them, and worked within the existing regime structure rather than completely overthrowing it. So far, it's worked, at least to an extent. Rodriguez is in the process of releasing nearly 450
Advocate for taxpayers to hold up the bottom line percentage of different if Jeff Bezos had the same views. Well, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I do think that, you know, I'm doing fine. I don't need any government assistance, so, I wouldn't be necessarily benefiting from any of these programs that I advocate for.
Political prisoners under American pressure, has signed an amnesty law covering nearly 3 decades of political prosecutions, and enacted the most sweeping opening of Venezuela's oil sector since Chavez came to power. While it's not exactly a fall of the Berlin Wall moment, Rodriguez is still wildly unpopular, and the country is far from anything resembling a democratic transition. This is genuine progress. More specifically, it's progress that was done without removing the already existing government. Venezuela's operation succeeded in no small part because it was at least partially a personalist regime in which the entire state basically served at the whim of the guy at the top. When Maduro was gone, Rodriguez didn't face much opposition in implementing the changes that had taken place. Iran ain't that. While the supreme leader certainly has his fair share of power, the IRGC has a significant amount of autonomy and won't be especially inclined to simply roll over in the event of a hostile takeover. The Iranian system has been specifically designed to avoid the hardliners losing power. It distributes authority across multiple overlapping institutions in ways that are deliberately designed so that no single removal could collapse the structure. Even the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, told Congress, quote, "No one knows," end quote, who would take over in the event of a regime collapse, although that doesn't exactly spell confidence in Washington's planning. But as it turns out, senior figures inside the Iranian government have been delivering almost exactly the same warning. Not to Congress, but directly to the supreme leader himself. And look, before we get into the cracks that are appearing in the Iranian regime, do you need to have a quick break to discuss something a little less urgent and hopefully a lot more protesters after they were arrested, although be warned, that one is definitely not fun to watch. Holy shit. But basically, if you like what we do here on the main channel and want to learn even before current Iranian officials told Reuters in early February that senior figures had gone directly to Khamenei with a warning. Public anger over the recent crackdown had reached a point where fear was no longer functioning as a deterrent, and that if American strikes came on top of renewed protests, the system itself could collapse. As we've been covering in our recent episodes on the state of Iran's domestic crisis, the scale of what happened in late December and January was unlike anything in the Republic's history, with at least 7,000 killed and over 50,000 detained in a crackdown on protests, with some estimates of the death toll exceeding 30,000 in the span of just 48 hours. The visible unrest has subsided since mid-January, but it's changed form rather than ended. 40-day mourning ceremonies, the Shia tradition marking the end of the grieving period, and the very same that ironically helped kickstart the 1979 revolution that brought this regime to power, have turned into recurring flashpoints that the government can see coming weeks in advance but apparently cannot prevent. When memorials for those killed on January the 8th arrived on February the 17th and 18th, demonstrations broke out across at least 7 provinces. Security forces opened fire on mourners in Ilam province, and the Iranian Teachers Union launched a nationwide strike in solidarity. Meanwhile, in Abdanan, hundreds more turned out despite a full communications blackout, filling the streets with car horns and anti-regime chants until security forces once again opened fire. But rather
I disagree, Skippy. I think the Iranian regime is very brutal. They're not good people. They want, you know, they are not a good actor. The 30K is coming from human rights advocacy groups.
Rather than address the grievance fueling all of this, the regime has trained its crosshairs inwards, towards its own political class in the largest purge of reformist politicians since 2009. Azar Mansouri, head of the Reformist Front and advisor to President Khatami, was arrested at her front door by IRGC intelligence earlier this month after she publicly condemned the killings and refused to accept the official line that the dead were rioters. Separately, a former lawmaker named Ali Shakuri Rad was taken into custody a few days later after a leaked recording surfaced in which he alleged that security institutions had deliberately injected violence into the scene to give legitimacy to their crackdown. In total, at least 7 prominent reformists were arrested, with another 7 summoned to court. At the same time, arrests and executions of civilians have accelerated dramatically. At least 58 prisoners were hanged between February the 14th and the 17th alone, while fast-tracked revolutionary court trials have begun sentencing participants in the January uprising to death at an unprecedented rate, and have a long track record of including children.
Oh, okay. We're getting, I think 30K is an really adjacent approximation, but the conversion Conservative ones still put it at 12 to 20, which is still horrible, yeah.
Children as targets. Washington, for its part, appears to be reading the moment as something it can use to its advantage. US officials confirmed to the Wall Street Journal that the country smuggled roughly 6,000 Starlink satellite internet terminals into Iran during the protest wave, allowing demonstrators to circumvent the blackout, and doctors to report casualty figures that dwarfed the government's official count. The regime responded with home raids and criminal penalties, but the logic connecting that operation to the carrier strike groups offshore is straightforward enough. Degrade the regime's infrastructure from above while keeping the population connected from below, and bet that the combination generates the kind of internal pressure that air power on its own has never managed to produce. It's a strategy built on the premise that the Islamic Republic is closer to breaking than it has ever been, and that with the right combination of pressure, it might not need to be invaded to fall apart.
Comment before. Oh. Yeah, that is still horrible.
But whether Washington...
By the way, Simon's showing a little chest here. You guys noticing that? Showing a little chest up here.
That theory depends on something that has so far received far less attention. The ultimatum. For all the talk of an imminent American attack on Iran, one of the less recognized aspects of Trump's approach so far has been just how consistently he's prioritized diplomacy, often to the visible frustration of Israel, which has been pushing him to skip straight to strikes the whole time. And while we can't exactly blame you if you don't equate either Washington's current positioning in the region or Donald Trump himself with pacifism, the fact remains that the administration has chosen to keep talking when it could have just started bombing. Last year, during the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, it was the White House which pushed Netanyahu to end his bombing of the country and insisted that negotiations continue. When Jerusalem proved less than enthusiastic about the idea, Trump front-ran both sides and simply declared a ceasefire to be in effect and publicly posted on Israel's behalf that the campaign was over. That was almost a year ago, though, and the military build-up that now looms over these negotiations seems to exist precisely because that patience appears to be running out. But the deal that Washington is demanding bears no resemblance whatsoever to the one that Obama struck with Tehran in 2015, and the odds of a repeat of that agreement are essentially...
Said, I don't with the last 20-minute prep, just did my final mock and finished 20 minutes early. Great sign.
Zero.
Exactly.
That deal, which capped enrichment but left Iran's military and proxy military programs untouched, is viewed by the current administration as having directly enabled the very threats it's now trying to dismantle, and the sanctions relief that came with it, in Washington's view, helped set the conditions that made October 7th possible. What Trump wants instead is a deal that addresses all three: verifiable nuclear restrictions, limits on Iran's ballistic missile program, and an end to its support of armed groups throughout the region. Senior officials have publicly ruled out anything less, and the military buildup offshore exists in no small part to make that position credible. Tehran, for its part, has made two of these three a hard no, insisting that its missiles and its regional allies are fundamental pillars of national defense with no place at the bargaining table. The furthest any named Iranian official has gone is offering to dilute enriched uranium from 60% down to 20% in exchange for complete lifting of all sanctions. And look, which is not even in the same stratosphere as what Washington considers the bare minimum required for a deal. This is where the laddered military option enters the picture, not as an alternative to diplomacy, but as the enforcement mechanism behind it. If Tehran won't agree to all three of these issues, and from what we can see, it's overwhelmingly likely that the strikes will begin. If Tehran won't agree to all three of these issues, from what we can see, it just seems overwhelmingly likely that strikes are going to begin. If those strikes don't produce compliance, they escalate, and they keep escalating until either the regime accepts American terms or ceases to exist in a form capable of rejecting them. Could it actually work? And the honest answer is that yeah, it might. A regime whose own senior officials are privately warning the supreme leader that the next crisis could bring the whole thing down is not one operating from a position of strength. Add sustained airstrikes on top of a population that they're only barely managing to keep under wraps, and it isn't too hard to imagine where this could end up. But there is another question here that's worth asking, given what's going to be at stake should Washington take this route. What happens if it doesn't work? The assumption underpinning the entire laddered approach is that at some point along the escalation curve, the pain becomes unbearable enough that Tehran will have to capitulate. But whether that assumption holds increasingly depends on who you ask, and on this question, the people who study Iran for a living are genuinely and deeply split. The case for strikes rests on a straightforward reading of everything we've documented throughout this episode. Iran is weaker than it's been at any point in its history, and a sustained military force applied to a system already buckling under mass protests could finally break it. Analysts at institutions that carry real weight in DC politics, from the Washington Institute to the American Enterprise Institute, have been arguing for the last year or so that these current vulnerabilities represent a once-in-a-generation window that will not be repeated anytime soon. Others have argued that holding out would only work as a viable path if it was the United States who blinked first, which Iran seems to believe to be a genuine possibility. What's more is that they assert that failing to follow through on threats at this stage, given the clear expectations that Trump and Rubio have both consistently laid out, would convince Tehran that it can defy Washington indefinitely. The opposing camp, folks like those at Chatham House, look at the situation and come back with a very different conclusion: that the Islamic Republic has spent nearly a half-century building its entire raison d'etre around standing up to Washington, whatever the cost may be for its citizens. And you've got to give it to them, they've stuck with it the whole time. Concessions on the magnitude that Washington is seeking would undermine all of this at a moment when the regime has never had less legitimacy in the eyes of the Iranian people. And these aren't just theoretical objections either. Trump's first term saw a maximum pressure campaign that imposed the most punishing sanctions the country had ever faced and failed to produce a single meaningful concession of any of the three issues back on the table. The regime is almost certainly resting its approach on that very playbook, though we should note how different the situation here is than it was back in Trump's first term. There's also the equation of whether an aerial campaign alone could ever be enough to produce the desired outcome. Writing on X a couple of days ago, OSINT Defender opined that, quoting, "Despite the ongoing aerial buildup, we've yet to see any significant movement of ground troops or special forces to the region, suggesting that whatever is coming would be purely an air campaign by the United States, which is in no way capable of toppling the current regime or installing a new government in Iran." End quote. And what we can say for certain is that the status quo in Iran is already ending. The only question is, how? The regime of a decade ago that boasted a functioning proxy network, a credible deterrent, and enough domestic legitimacy to weather periodic unrest no longer exists. What remains is a government that has proven it's willing to deploy that very same proxy force domestically to kill its way through a crisis to stay in power. That's a hell of a difference. Whether American strikes accelerate.
So, ladies and gentlemen, do you think we're about to strike? I think it's almost 100% we are, and well, like the experts say, we don't exactly know if this is going to dissuade Iran from acting the way it does. So I'm going to be very interested in what happens. Anyways, guys, I gotta get out of here. It's pretty late for me, so I will be getting ready to go to work. If you guys enjoyed the stream, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. I'm growing out there. We're doing pretty great, honestly. Got 17 likes today. That's killer, guys. Keep it up. And until next time, peace. Maybe. Alright, later gamers, I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, that's actually, Mr. Fisher, I think that's a good point, man. As soon as they get hit, like, it has to come from, it has to come from inside, you know? Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.